Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the Asheville City Council. And I would just ask that you would just take a moment to look at your phone to ensure that it's either on vibrate, silent, or off so it will not disrupt the meeting. Thank you so very much. At this time, we're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance together. If we could stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The invocation this evening will be given by Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. We have suffered a tragic loss this past several days of a member of our community to fire, and I happen to know the individual, and it makes it even more tragic, but it's tragic in any event that we lost a neighbor to something that should not have happened. And I'd like for us to take a moment of silence in remembrance of Deborah Beber, and then those of you who would join me in prayer. Dear Father God, thank you so much for the many gifts that you give us, for this wonderful community that we live, for the ending of winter and the beginning of spring that we're on the edge of. Thank you for the beauty of the earth and so many good things that are out there for us. We'd ask that you be with those folks that need you so much at this time. We'd ask that you be with those people in uniform that protect us and are there for us. We'd ask that the community remember the loss and do the best that we can to prevent things like that from happening. To ask that you be with us as a council, that we might hear what the community has to say and react to them in the best way possible, and give us that guidance. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so very much, Councilman Davis. Next, we have proclamations, and we have a great story here. And we're going to recognize the Warren Wilson men's basketball national champions, the entire team. And I'm not going to do it. An alumnus of Warren Wilson is going to do it, and that's in the form of Councilman Smith. He's excited. He's just like, I want to do this.
I want to invite the whole team to come on up here and just kind of gather here. I want to make sure everybody can see you. This is fantastic stuff. In a moment, I'm going to give you all an opportunity to just kind of come through and pass by the mic here and introduce yourselves to council. But we're all very proud of this Warren Wilson Owls team. After a couple of decades of having a real hard time, y'all have put yourselves back on the map in the biggest way imaginable, and you've really made us all very proud. This team finished the season on a 12-game winning streak, and this is their first USCAA national championship in the school's history. Rayshawn Love was named the tournament's most valuable player. Anthony Behringer and Rashad Ali were named to the all-tournament team. Which two are you? Yes. And Dylan Johnson and Ty Johnson were named academic All-Americans. So, gentlemen, if you just kind of, and of course yourself, this is Stacy Ennis, the sports athletic director. If you'd like to say a couple words here, and then we'll ask all you guys to introduce yourselves. The cameras got you out here so the city and folks watching can see you. And I'm just real proud. Ms. Ennis?
I want to thank you for having us here today. I know our community is known in the city and in the county for the work and the service we tend to do, but we're not often known for our athletics. So we're very proud. These guys showed that there's no substitute for hard work. They had this vision a couple years ago, and they never looked back. They put a lot into it. We're incredibly proud of you, and I want to say thank you to everybody. So.
I'm Greg Neely, and I'm the head coach.
My name's Matt Kenner, and I'm the assistant coach.
My name is Tiger Norman. I'm the assistant coach.
Anthony Behringer, point guard.
My name is Dylan Johnson. Thank y'all for having us.
Rashad Ali, forward. I'm a junior, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
Justin Gagne, freshman, shooting guard.
My name is Timur Oktay. I'm from Turkey. I'm a point guard, forward, and post.
My name is Patrick Albright. I'm a senior forward from Kingsport, Tennessee.
My name is James Rayshawn Love. I'm a shooting guard, and I'm a senior.
My name is Dan Jackson. I'm a senior, and I'm also a guard.
My name is Ty Johnson, and I'm from Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and I'm a guard.
My name is Danilo Radonjic, and I'm from Montenegro, freshman.
My name is Chris Dillard. I'm a guard, and I'm a freshman.
My name is Tyler Triplett, and I'm a freshman, and I'm from Morganton, North Carolina, and I'm a forward.
I'm KJ Walton. I am an Asheville High graduate, and I am a freshman point guard.
No problem. Please tell Steve Soldick we said congratulations. New president. Wonderful. I think we're going to have a hall of champions. I think the last couple of sessions we've had here, we've had champions and winners, and so I'm really happy about the good news that's happening in our community. Again, congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
We have a couple of proclamations, and I'm just going to go ahead and do those from the floor. The first one is recognizing Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and I'm going to call on Linda McDaniel from the Ark of Buncombe County to receive this proclamation. And Linda works not only with the Ark, she also works with the Irene Wortham Center, as well as various other nonprofits with developmental disabilities. Welcome, Ms. McDaniel. The proclamation reads, whereas the health and well-being of every person is of great importance to the prosperity, happiness, and livelihood of our families and communities, and whereas every person of every ability has valuable strengths and an infinite capacity to learn and the potential to make important contributions to our local community, and whereas every person, including those with developmental disabilities, has the right to live an independent and productive life and to exercise their right to choose their education, job, recreation activities, and where to live. And whereas Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month is an appropriate time to recognize our public policy accomplishments concerning persons with disabilities, and also to identify additional policy improvements needed to fully include all citizens. So now, therefore, I, Terry Bellamy, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim March 2013 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the City of Asheville, and encourage all citizens to recognize the contributions of people with developmental disabilities within our community. It has the city seal and my signature, making it official.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I may take 30 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. This is a passion of mine, and I truly appreciate this proclamation on behalf of the ARC of Buncombe County and all the agencies and group homes in Buncombe County. Everyone works very hard in those arenas, supporting individuals and their families with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We want people to recognize these people and provide them with the natural supports as each of you have. Again, we thank you for this proclamation.
And Mr. Jackson, I do want to commend the City of Asheville's Therapeutic Recreation Program. This marks, I think, the second year that we're about to start up with the Bobcats have supported our Therapeutic Recreation Program with a Junior Bobcats basketball program. And so that was a good partnership between UNC Asheville helping to get that in place, as well as the Bobcats professional basketball team. We're excited about that. And I have one for Women's History Month, and that's going to be given at a program later, but I would like to read that into the record. This proclamation reads, whereas women of every race, class, and ethnic background serve Asheville as leaders in government, education, public service, healthcare, and business, and whereas women have made significant contributions to growth and strength of the Asheville area in countless recorded and unrecorded ways, and whereas women play a critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life in Asheville, and constitute a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home. Whereas women have played a unique role throughout the history of Asheville by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of our city through their successful operations of charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions. And whereas Women's History Month provides an opportunity for us to consider the role of women in our history and to recognize the contribution of women in our area. Now, therefore, I, Terry Bellamy, Mayor of the City of Asheville, do hereby proclaim that March 2013 is Women's History Month in the City of Asheville, and the people of Asheville are encouraged to celebrate with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. It has a city seal and my signature, making it official. Just a little point. So the first elected woman for the General Assembly, where did she come from? There we go. Lillian Exum Clement. And her marker is not too far from here, right next to TK Trips. So just a little state of facts, but I like that idea. All right, Council, we have a full consent agenda. Any questions or comments on items A through F on first page and G through I on second? And as you're looking, any member of the community with any questions or comments about any item on the consent agenda? Okay, seeing no one, move forward. Council, questions, comments, or a motion?
Mayor, just for purpose of recognition, item C, I noticed that ABC Chair is here, Jim Ellis, and wanted to recognize that he was here and thank him for the good job that ABC Board's doing for the community. And also want to congratulate him on the sale of the property on Tunnel Road, which has been difficult, and that will be converted into something more profitable from the ABC Board. So would there be a moment that Mr. Ellis might speak to us about what's happening there with that property? Or
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, would you like to speak to the council about what's happening with that property that
well, we sold the property on Tunnel Road, and we hope to use the proceeds from the sale of that property. By the way, we sold that property when we built the new store on Tunnel Road, and a year and a half ago we got such a great bargain on this lot on Hendersonville Road that we were able to make an offer on it, and probably got it for I think they were asking $1.2 million for it, and we finally paid a little over $600,000 for it, so we managed to buy the property at the right time. And this will be our last store that we're leasing. We've managed over the period of the last 4 years to build new stores, and so we won't be leasing anymore, except one store on Charlotte Street that we're leasing from the city, and we'd like to keep it that way if that's okay. But we anticipate with this, it will not be necessary for us to borrow any money. With what we've been able to save and with the proceeds from the sale of this property, we'll actually be able to go ahead and construct this store, and we expect construction to start in just a matter of weeks, and we'd hope to have that new store open on Hendersonville Road. By the way, it's just adjacent to the Hess station on Hendersonville Road. If you know where that is, it's on the other side right on Hendersonville Road, so it's a perfect location, and we're delighted we have a lease that's running up late this year, so we really need to get the new store open. So we appreciate very much council giving us this opportunity, and by the way, this is just another investment for you because you own the stores and the land when we get through with it. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, yes.
Just one more thing to highlight for folks that might be here or watching. The last item in the consent agenda has us changing the meeting time for City Council session 2 weeks from today from our normal 5 o'clock till 2:30 in the afternoon. And it's the kind of thing that could slip past for a lot of people and they might miss the action. It's always fun to be here, I know, but just wanted to highlight that. Thanks.
And I'll take the blame for that. That is the second night of Passover, which I'm sure is on everyone's calendar, and that's why we've moved that meeting up. Thank you very much.
All right, and I do want to highlight the National Mayor's Challenge for Water Conservation. It's an effort to conserve water, and so hopefully through the passage of this we can have more information going forward. Our community is really good at taking up challenges, and this is an opportunity for us to conserve water from April the 1st through the 30th, and we're hopefully going to do a good job with that. I don't have a motion.
Go ahead.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. Thanks, Council. Council, we have 3 updates tonight, and the first one is from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So Nathan Kennedy will make the presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Bellamy and City Council members. My name is Nathaniel Kennedy. I'm the current chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the city. And I want to bring to you today the annual report from Planning and Zoning. Of course, Planning and Zoning is an appointed advisory board charged with providing advice and recommendations to City Council on issues related to land use and development. We currently have a 7-board member that's full board. 5 members are appointed by the city. 2 members are appointed by Buncombe County Board of Commissioners to represent the ETJ area of the city. We meet on the first Wednesday of the month on the first floor of City Hall at 5 o'clock. We have a work session at 4:30 on those same days. We have a mid-month meeting on the 3rd Thursday when deemed necessary or is needed, also at the first floor conference room. Current members are Joseph Minicozy, Christy Carter, Jane Matthews, Holly Schreiner, and Jeremy Goldstein, representatives appointed by City Council. And we have myself and Jim Edmonds, a new appointee from the county. In October, Holly Schreiner was appointed to a 2nd term. Mark Brooks finished his term, and Joseph Minicozy was appointed in his place. At that meeting, Jeremy Goldstein was elected vice chair, and I was elected to chair the committee. This year, we reviewed 52 projects compared to 50 last year and 38 in 2010. We had 9 conditional zonings, 7 rezonings, 4 central business district variances, 1 major subdivision, 1 subdivision modification, 1 initial zoning, 1 level 3 project, and 10 level 2 projects. In addition to a number of development applications, the Commission also reviewed and offered input on a number of complicated ordinances, including an amendment to and the deletion of digital billboard standards, outdoor lighting standards, removal of a ban for outdoor speakers in the central business and the River District, and amendments to mobile home vending standards and operational hours of push carts. We had an annual retreat on March 8th at the Highsmith Center at UNCA, and at that retreat we had discussions including updates to the Commission Rules of Procedure, purpose and uses of conditional zoning, the new city management restructuring, and an update on the zoning map study that we're currently involved in. That study is Mr. Minicozy brought that forward, and what he wanted to do was to try to study the areas where intensive use meets residential use, and try to identify those areas and see if we can do something to help make those projects go through a little smoother or work better with the neighborhoods. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Council, any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work.
All right. Next, we're going to hear from the Public Art and Cultural Commission. Mr. Robert Todd, Chair of the Commission.
Thank you, Mayor Bellamy. Good evening, Council. Y'all are moving quick tonight. I like to see it. This is great. Thank you for having us. I am the current chair of the Public Art and Cultural Commission, and we are delivering our annual report in person this year. And thank you for hearing us. Okay. Please pardon my working with the technology here. I'll try to do my best. We have an active board, technically a commission. We've become a commission this year, and I'd like to go ahead and let you know who those members are. Jen Gordon is serving as our vice chair, Honor Moore, Jan Faree, Gwen Ruckenbrod, Julie Ropanek, Sharon Trammell, Leslie Klingner, and Guillermo Rodriguez. That makes up our board. And we have had a successful year implementing the master plan initiatives that the city has adopted, and so I've got a PowerPoint presentation that I'll kind of go through those, and then I'll end with a opportunity that we have been letting council be made aware of, as we are in a frozen position with our superintendent of cultural arts currently, and we would like to ask council to take up a consideration on moving forward possibly with a different job description for that. So this is a recap of our goals and accomplishments for 2012 and 2013. Just to let you know, our mission is to facilitate public art in public buildings and public spaces. We are truly public art, so it must be accessible. Engage the creative sector as a major attraction. This attraction would be attracting new residents to Asheville and retaining those residents in Asheville, as well as making the creative sector attractive to our residents currently here, and last but not least, for our tourists that engage in our arts and our creative sector. Encourage public confidence for and appreciation for the arts. Build partnerships and collaborations, and this is a key point as we move forward under strenuous budget restrictions, where we need to reach out as a city. If we're delivering the cultural arts to our residents, we've got to reach out and identify partnerships, and we've got to identify the groups that are already doing certain things, but let the city be a leader and show their support for the cultural arts as well as our creative sector. So that's a key point, and I'm going to come back to that one. And that is within our master plan, both the downtown and our parks master plan. Aid in strengthening the organizational structure of public arts and cultural delivery. That's simply efficiency and doing the job right. The city has the public art collection, and those are assets. These paintings here are part of the public art collection. As any asset or infrastructure requires maintenance and condition assessment throughout the years, and that is also a role of the Public Art and Cultural Commission. This is an example of the Aloft Hotel Garage, which you may recognize, and we have the 1% for art for capital improvement projects. Thank you, Council, for passing that in the ordinance. And so we are tasked this year with identifying what might go there, and so that will be a call for new art that will go above this garage here. And on the example on the left is a parking garage sculpture that's in Santa Monica, California. Each year we go have a slideshow of the sort of Oscars of public art, if you will. That's a national call to different artists, and so those are offered awards. And so we have a slideshow that goes through those. And this piece was identified, it won an award, and actually I was out in Santa Monica and saw it in place. And it is adding to the city fabric, no doubt. This is an upcoming acquisition, which will be the gates related to the Nature Center. And this is just an artist rendition of that. There'll be an admissions ticket booth and then this gate, which will close at night. And so that's going to be a canvas, so to speak, for public art. And so when we have acquisitions, we've got commission members that are going to join the design team early in the process and talk about the opportunity for the art that is there, and then work with the designers, hopefully to be able to bring forward a functional aspect of that. The greenways, thank goodness we are actually going to be putting miles of greenways down in the city. We're excited by that. Art will be part of the initial conversation there. So we are at the table early as the designers have just been selected for the greenways. And so we will be at the table to identify where can creative intervention take place. Is it in signage? Is it in benches? Is it in something as mundane as a culvert? So we're open to all of those, and we'll be pursuing that, again, as a capital improvement percentage. This is an example. Mayor Bellamy, you may recognize somebody.
Just a little bit.
Up there. This is at the Magnolia Park. That is a really sad series of restrooms there. Cinder block up on the left, that's the way it looked up until recently. And this is a mural that was put in place by Julie Armbruster. This was a donation to the city. And so the Public Art Board, or Public Art and Cultural Commission, accepts that donation, works with the neighborhood to make sure it's of an appropriate design, and then we will maintain that acquisition over the life of it. The beauty of this, Gary Jackson, pay attention, is this is your infrastructure here is a cinder block building. What we're able to do with this mural is we can extend the life of this building so that it's acceptable functionally to our community and our citizens by putting a mural on it. When money becomes available, which this is slated to be demolished or rehabbed, I should say, or rebuilt, then that money might be pushed down the line or it may not come in. Art has the ability to extend the life of your infrastructure. And my kid likes it. Here's another opportunity that we have here. This is Urban Trail Station, Urban Trail Station number 12. And the Urban Trail is also a part of the public arts assets. And as we know, the city is potentially selling, I know the deal is not done yet, the property adjacent to this, to the McKibben Group. And there is an opportunity here because we've got a urban trail station that is there on site in the sidewalk. We've got an opportunity to bring the developer and the Basilica's constituents together and be able to recognize historical impact that Guastavino had from a design perspective here in Asheville. And we are opening that conversation and participating in that conversation to say we have an opportunity to be able to come together and create something better than if we stayed in our corners on this. So that's of great benefit. Again, we've got that under maintenance and repair, but really that's collaboration and identifying opportunities. We've got the Civic Center, where Appalachian Stage, where the dancers, and everybody loves the girl that's dancing. The Civic Center floor is going to be redone, and it's going to be terrazzo, where it's the brick as it is now. So that's going to be terrazzo. That is an opportunity for us to create an art piece in the terrazzo floor that is reflective of the Asheville, of our mountains, and of our community. So again, we are there at the very beginning of the design of that floor to offer input. So we've got a commission member on a task force there. This particular piece of Appalachian stage will be removed and put in storage, and during that time we will be conserving and restoring it because it's been out in the weather. So we are protecting the asset of the city. For the first time since the urban trail plaques went down, we had a cleaning day this fall, and we were able to clean and protect 15 plaques and in the span of about 4 hours on a Saturday morning. Then it was Brewgrass, conveniently, that afternoon, so we celebrated. This we will do also in the spring. Again, this is a part of our maintenance subcommittee's work, and what this does is engage actually the public and our tourists, which we did not expect in that morning, where they stopped and asked what it was that we were doing, and we were able to speak a little bit about the urban trail. The Creative Sector Summit, that was a goal in the downtown master plan, is to bring our creative sector, nonprofits, for-profits, artists, individuals together, and to have a summit where we could share ideas and bring ideas from the outside and bring speakers in. That is sponsored by the Asheville Area Arts Council, and they just completed their third summit last week, conveniently, and got a lot of great support and a lot of ideas buzzing around, so our creative sector is engaged. This is the easel rider. Again, this is our mobile infrastructure and asset, and this brings creativity out into the community. So that easel rider travels around. It takes staff time to do that, but we're able to bring creative arts out into the community. City of Asheville Public Art Cultural Commission was an administrator of the Grassroots Art Grant Program, and one of the winners was Leaf in Schools and Streets. This is an example of the Delta House, if you're familiar with them, on South French Broad, a great program where we're taking youth that might not have opportunity to learn musical instruments and engaging them in learning music and introducing them to great bands such as Preservation Hall in New Orleans. The support was just a small seed. The City of Asheville's Grassroots grants was not, I apologize. I'll try to wrap this up. But Mayor, may I have a few more minutes, or do I need to cut? Thank you. So this was a small seed, and what's important for a city council to understand is a little bit of leadership in a small seed grant passing through has big impact. Delta House now is raising money and is almost there to go visit Preservation Hall in New Orleans. What a great opportunity for kids and for us to be able to help send them there. Back to the urban trail, this is I'm going to put this under public safety. This is where art and design has the ability to address issues that come up within the city fabric. We were approached by the police department related to a little bit of squatting that would happen at this right across from 5 Walnut and Second Gear. And so we are looking at a redesign here of our urban trail station to assist in public safety. This is Triangle Park mural. This was with the Asheville Design Center. Again, this is a historical mural based on members of the community, and we are accepting it as a donation into our art collection. Creative placemaking, this is a particular interesting one where it was a yarn bombing. If you were downtown over the summer, you might have seen strange yarn constructions on signs. This is just an example that other cities had used there. We learned a lot about creative placemaking at the summit, and some of that was sponsored by the City of Asheville, and we want to move forward in creative placemaking in the future. So moving forward, you've seen where we've been, and we have been able to get there because we've had a dedicated superintendent of the cultural arts for the last 3 years at least, and we've got a great staff within Parks and Rec, but that in order to be able to move forward with the amount of work that we are accomplishing, we need the city to be behind us and staff that position. And so what we have been working on is a proposal that essentially raises this question and identifies an opportunity that says to the city, we can transition from the label of superintendent of cultural arts to a creative economies leadership position. It doesn't necessarily have to be a director. As I understand, there is a different city structure within that. It could be a superintendent it could be a leadership position. We believe that position should be a full-time position, but we understand that there are restraints in the city budget. So what we would like to do is to have the City Council take a moment and reach out under this question, learn about what other cities are doing. I had emailed out to each of you a Word document that has links when you have time late at night. Click through there, and you can see what other cities that Asheville is often compared to. And normally they are larger cities, but that just gives you an idea of the national standing that we have in the public's perception. But other cities are doing this. They're recognizing that there is an opportunity to go beyond just the arts and to incorporate the entire creative economy sector. When I talk creative economy sector, I'm talking about emerging technology jobs. I'm talking about small entrepreneurs, the ones and twos that may be arts related or at least are in the creative sector of things, graphic artists, architects like myself. What can the city do to take a leadership position to either reach across the different organizations and find collaborative efforts to help retain and attract these types of jobs here? As Jack Cecil said during the Creative Summit, Asheville is more of a needs to move in a more of a brain economy than a brawn economy. And I think that's a real easy way to say it. So we'd like for the City Council to take a moment and to, I'm going to ask you, what does Council want Asheville's cultural arts impact to be for 2013 and 2014? And so we are here as a resource for Council. We are here to offer you feedback, and when we get to a crossroads, we're here to point out an opportunity. So we are an arm of Council. We recognize that, and so we want to stand in support of that. I've reached out to other organizations in town. Venture Asheville is very interested in what it is that we are doing. We've talked with the Chamber to some degree. We've identified the CVB, the TDA as other potential partners in this. And so I would like to ask for all of our arts supporters and creative sector economy supporters to stand here just to help the decision be made easier for City Council. These individuals are dedicated to community members, they are entrepreneurs, they are nonprofit administrators, and they are all passionate about the arts. They are engaged. They want to see our city succeed. We understand that we have budget issues, but we want to be able to resolve those together in a collaborative effort.
Thank you.
So I thank you all, and thank you for letting me run over.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Todd. And we did talk about this issue yesterday at the City Council's retreat, and we spent quite a bit of time on the position that you put forward, and I think we had 4 nods for Mr. Jackson to look at what can we do collaboratively, because HUB has adopted the arts as a part of its initiative. The Chamber's 5x5 has adopted the arts as it's part of the economic drivers for our community. And I felt like, just as you, that the city needs to adopt the arts as something that we hold dear, because as you all heard last week, the arts and cultural services has a $35 million impact on our economy. So that's a pretty significant amount. And so we're not talking about something that's just here for a limited time. And Councilman Smith, who actually attended the summit, I also felt the same way. Did you want to speak to it as well?
Sure. I have the honor of being the liaison to the Public Art and Cultural Commission. Thanks, Robert, for the really great presentation and for all the hard work of those board members. As y'all have kind of transitioned once the 1% ordinance passed into doing a lot more maintenance and beginning this acquisition program as well. Excuse me. And I think that what you've borne out here today is that arts is economic development, it's community development, it's public safety. It touches so many areas of our City Council strategic goals in general. And as Mayor Bellamy said, this is tens of millions of dollars per year currently. And this is before we've really made a kind of a renewed effort at the city level to coordinate these partners and to turn that $35 million into who knows how much, and I imagine that ends up in the hundreds of millions if we do it right. You asked what impact do we want y'all to have this year, And there are a few things spring to mind. One is to continue to strengthen and bolster Asheville's identity as an arts community, with the understanding that we are a hub for artists of all types. And for all of you out there who are in the arts and trying to make it work, to know that the city stands behind you on that and that we want to see you grow and succeed and prosper. I'd like to see you help coordinate those partners and see what kind of collaborations we can come up with, because you're right in your assumptions as far as the budgetary pressures. And just one programming kind of piece, I think the Easel Rider is our mobile van with the projector on it and all that stuff. And I think it's kind of mothballed right now while we figure out what we're doing programming-wise, but that's something I'd like to see used more and more if groups wanted to be able to do projection art, particularly around the projection piece. It's just such an easy way to bring art to all corners of our community. I'm also very supportive of having a creative economies leadership position in place within our economic development structure, in the recognition of all the opportunities that we haven't yet seized there.
Councilman Hunt.
And just to be a little more specific about what at least I experienced going on yesterday, I think that council, yesterday being the strategic planning retreat of council where we were looking big picture at these sort of things, I sense that council is really interested in advancing this cause and providing staff level resources to support the initiatives. The dialogue with the city manager was that we want to undertake a process with him and his staff to create a team approach through, at different levels of staff and in different places within staff to make sure that we have the right focus in the right places. And I know from experience that when we work with staff to implement things in creative ways, we get efficiency, we get focus, we get good results. So I came away confident that the kinds of resources that I know you guys are eager to see in the form of a director very soon will ultimately come about as we sort through structuring our operations over the next few months with some staff changes and all. I think it'll get there. And Gary, I don't know if you want to address that at all.
To borrow a line from Wayne Gretzky, I think we're skating to where the puck is going. When the position became open, we held it open with the idea of moving exactly in this direction. So it's exciting to see the community support to move from cultural programming, which we can do with the easel truck, but really to do more economic development. So the idea was not to re-advertise for the position, but to create the flexibility to do exactly what's being contemplated here. We also talked with you not only at the retreat, but earlier today and in individual meetings about moving away from a festival management program and freeing up resources there. So we really appreciate this input and like you said, Councilman, continuing this dialogue. We have been getting the input as well from HUB and from the Advantage Asheville and AB, Asheville Buncombe Economic Development Council. Also sitting at the table with the AB Tech Entrepreneurial Foundation. They're starting up an accelerator program. So there are a host of things that we're trying to do by one, moving away from the model we're using now, not going ahead and filling the position with the old job description. So this is a great dialogue and a great process for us to go through. And assuming that we continue in the direction that Council talked about earlier today, you are freeing up the very resources and reprogramming them so we do more economic development, more job creation in the arts and in the performing as well as all other forms of cultural arts. So I think this is a great process to continue through our budget process and then in anticipation of the re-engineering of the festival division within the department.
All right, Mr. Todd, you good?
Yes, I'd just like to reiterate that we've got expertise on the commission that council has appointed. Please use this as a resource. We would like to definitely continue this conversation and would like to be at the table when we can for this in order to bring forward our collaborations that we're working on, because we understand that the city cannot do it in and of it by itself. but the city should lead. So I appreciate council for entertaining this idea. We have a few people that had wanted to speak, but I know that that was not on the agenda. So Mayor, I'll just ask, would that be possible, or should they wait until public comment? Do we have time in the schedule? I would guess there would probably be 3 people.
And we don't normally do that in this part of the agenda, because usually the spokesperson for the group has spoken for the commission and spoken on behalf of reviews. Is it pressing you didn't cover it, or?
It was just a question because I know that it's not typical, but I knew it might be possible. So I yield to you. It's whatever you'd like to do.
All right. I'm not hearing anything to say yay or nay, and so if they could just let us know in writing what they have. But I want to take upon a personal privilege to say this is the last time you'll come before me as mayor. And I want to say thank you so very much to the arts community. When I first became mayor, I got one of those trusty dusty emails from Leslie Anderson giving me the history of the urban trail and reminding me that the urban trail was a donation to the city of Asheville from members of our community who raised money to develop the urban trail. And it's the success of the program has garnered visitors near and far. And it was just the beginning of developing a closer relationship with volunteers when it comes to public art. And the city set aside money. That was the main reason of that email, setting aside money for the maintenance. And then we moved forward with really implementing the 1% set aside for public art. And as I sit in our community, and we are constantly recognized as an arts destination, it's not necessarily because of the leadership here that we've gotten it. It's because of the leadership out there. And I just want to say thank you to the individuals in the arts community who donate money, time, and resources to make this a mecca of cultural activity. And I just want to say that as we move forward, and I'm really excited about this transition and what this could mean for our community, to say don't stop, that what you're doing is transforming our economy and our community. And while it's 35 million today, it's unlimited for the future. And I say to Pam, continue your fight for the renovation of the Arts Center, because it's a magnet of cultural attraction. As we look at the different nonprofits that are in the room, if I start going through it, then council will kick me under the table. But I just want to say thank you. Because of you, we're a hot city. And it's great to see this collaboration going to the next level. And I just wanted to publicly say that. And since I still have the gavel, I felt like I could do a personal point of privilege. And I'll probably continue to do this as I continue my reign as mayor. And so might want to get used to it on the next couple of meetings. But thank you all so very much for what you've done.
Thank you for your support, Terry, and your service. Thank you.
All right. Council, we have a full agenda, and we're going to go ahead and move forward and give an update, or we got to we have only one public hearing this evening.
Oh, the legislative.
Jeff, we forgot about you. I didn't see water, so legislative update. I guess any water update as well?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so water and legislative update. So Gary, will it just be one title going forward?
Legislative.
So it'll be legislative and no longer water / legislative.
We could slash water. That's what you want. Would you like it styled legislative?
Yeah, water and legislative, so people will know we're still getting updates on water.
Sure.
Mr. Richardson, welcome.
Mayor Bellamy, members of council, thank you. I'm Jeff Richardson, Deputy City Manager. Thank you for the feedback, because certainly, as you can tell by the lead slide, we continue to track the legislative activity in Raleigh regarding our water system very closely. I'm going to quickly move through these. Some of this is redundant, and I know that the Asheville City Council is in daily contact. I know that several council members, the mayor, you've been in Raleigh in the last week, and in fact, you may have more updated information in some cases than I do myself. I know Mr. Ost is also in the City Attorney's office helping to track this as well, and certainly City Attorney Ost, please help if you've got clarification as well. Real quickly, regarding our water system, Asheville transfers, House Bill 252. This is a House bill that was introduced that would basically repeal Sullivan Act language that currently allows the City of Asheville to transfer up to 5% of our utility revenues from our water system. We move those over into the general fund, and we look for water projects that also involve sidewalk improvements, street improvements, and we've been very diligent with that money. We will continue to be so, but if this is passed, that would eliminate that possibility. Our folks in the Water Department also was looking at Senate Bill 207, House Bill 238, Maintaining Water and Sewer Physical Health. These are bills that have been introduced that would allow the local government commission to have authority to oversee or come in and assume control if there are water systems, sewer systems, utilities that are in financial difficulty. Certainly does not apply to the City of Asheville. There is a long definition of what that means as it relates to revenue growth, equivalent of fund system balance, and so forth. But for systems across North Carolina that may not be in as good a financial condition as others, they would have the ability to come in and assume control. I would also like to report that we've continued to move forward with good faith discussion with MSD, currently drafting an MOU that would define consideration of functional mergers between the City of Asheville and MSD. Our city manager, Mr. Jackson, has met recently with senior staff at MSD, and we're entertaining interest from MSD in a number of areas to include health care, health wellness initiatives, purchasing, I believe. And Mr. Jackson, is there anything you'd want to say on that?
That's good.
Okay. In terms of communications, we continue to monitor website and information requests, and we continue to track resolutions with the interest that are coming through other cities in North Carolina. To step away from water and to look more general, again, some of this is redundant. This is, I believe, our third time that we've been before you since in the February-March timeframe to talk about legislative activity. As I stated last time that I was before you, an annexation amendment, House Bill 79, that would make it a constitutional amendment in 2014 before North Carolina voters. 2/3 of folks to be annexed would have to agree to be annexed in addition to that, language that would eliminate ETJs across North Carolina. I want to come back to that in just a few minutes. In addition, some local activity with property tax and de-annexation, Senate Bill 97, which involves some property in New Hanover County that would require release or refund of property taxes in any area, part of a municipality, for 6 months or less, and then it becomes de-annexed. And so it's the tone, it's a tone and sentiment that we continue to track with interest, as does our League of Municipalities. Going back to ETJ for just a second, House Bill 224, this is Asheville only, so this is a House bill that would just be effective to Asheville. If this were to move forward and pass, it would require the city to relinquish our extraterritorial jurisdiction in Buncombe County effective April the 1st. The bill would also not allow the city to initiate annexation proceedings or complete voluntary annexations requested by individual property owner. My understanding is that if this passes April 1st, that there would be a 60-day waiting period that would allow Buncombe County government to adopt regulations. And in the Mayor and Council, you do know that Asheville staff has asked for direction and is currently looking to move forward with Buncombe County staff to talk about ETJ and the current situation there.
Jeff, before you go on, can you go back? So this bill would make it illegal for voluntary annexations? People who wanted to come into the city wouldn't be allowed to?
I lifted this straight off of the league website earlier today, verbatim, and I've not had a chance to speak with anybody at the staff level about that language.
We're not sure about rationale there.
They don't want new restaurants.
Just a second. Bob.
I have read the bill, and as it's written now, it would prohibit petitioned annexation, which would be voluntary annexation. But we've identified these issues, and we're bringing them to the attention of the folks who are in charge of the legislation.
And so, as it's currently written, that's the case. And so, there have been conversations to try to get that changed. But an example of what that could do. As you know, on Airport Road, we have several new restaurants that have come into the city, and they did so voluntarily, and they did so because they wanted liquor by the drink, and they said, city, hey, we want to come in. We want to make sure we adhere to your regulations, but we have a benefit. And so it was mutually beneficial, but this piece of legislation would take that away. And so hopefully, through the conversations with the county, we can show them the benefits of not following through on this piece of legislation. Councilman Hunt?
And it's not just liquor by the drink. Yeah. There are also some commercial properties out there that need an urban level of fire service and police protection to pursue their development, and that's another reason people annex out that way. So
fire protection for economic development reasons, people should be able to annex into the city of their choice, and Asheville's the choice at this time. Councilman Hunt?
I was just going to offer the aspect of this bill that relates to annexation, both in the press and privately. Members of the delegation have expressed some understanding that perhaps that is overly restrictive, and have agreed to have dialogue with the city attorney and express some openness to considering broadening that.
I think that bill and House Bill 252 regarding the transfer from the water fund are coming up in committee on Thursday, and so we're making sure that people hear about those.
Right.
And was there any discussion about the rationale for including it?
I'm not sure there was an awareness.
It was perhaps not as thoroughly considered. And there was not enough dialogue with stakeholders.
Understood. Thanks.
It wasn't enough. What dialogue was held?
Well, I believe
there's a lack there.
The bill may have been hastily written without gathering input from folks that might have some views on this. So, and I'm. In saying this, I believe there's space for conversation. And I believe it will be welcomed. The input will be welcomed.
That's
in
correct.
terms of how it factors in. I'm not sure.
I just want the record to be accurately depicted. That there wasn't dialogue, and so I just wanted to be clear.
It was This bill emerged kind of out of nowhere.
That's called a monologue.
Thank you.
House Bill 150 picked up on this House bill for zoning design and aesthetic controls, which if it moves forward and comes into law, it would eliminate the ability, this is statewide, eliminate the ability of cities to impose aesthetics controls over 1 and 2 family dwellings in all zoning districts, and there are some limitations to that. Again, have not had a chance to speak with Shannon Tuck or Judy Daniel or Bob Oast or anyone that is in the planning and or development services areas, and we'll continue to analyze this to see what this means. Certainly our League of Municipalities is opposing it. Senate Bill 125, switching gears, moving away from annexation, land use, building inspections. Senate Bill 125, public meeting records law. Senate Bill 125, if passes, would basically make it for elected or appointed officials denying access to a public record or any public elected body who violates open meetings law. This would now become a criminal Class 3 misdemeanor, moving from civil to criminal. And again, we learned of that this week.
I had a question. So with that one, that would be on the state level as well, or just local elected officials?
That would be a statewide bill.
Jeff?
Sir.
On 150 there, we're undertaking in West Asheville a form-based zoning study. I know you haven't talked to the planning staff, but maybe Bob, how does that impact that?
We're still reviewing it. It addresses certain design guidelines that are clearly aesthetic in nature. We're not sure that it would be. I think we've looked at it enough to conclude that it would not hinder our ability substantially to pursue form-based zoning. Ms. Daniel may have a different.
No, I just want to add to that. I got an email today from the state planning organization outlining some other parts of this bill that were more extensive than we originally thought. And while it would not probably affect form-based code, we do have other zoning districts that have design elements within them. It could affect those. It also impacts the ability of a city to limit the number of kitchens you could have in a house and some elements like that. There's concern about how it would affect townhouse developments, which design guidelines can be very important. So there's a lot of concern in the planning community about this bill.
Doesn't that run head-on into federal historic districts?
The historic districts are exempted.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And one further observation is it would keep local governments from regulating things that this city currently does not regulate to a great degree, but it also would affect some of the regulations that we do have.
I spoke to you previously about House Bill 120, and since we spoke 2 weeks ago, this bill, which is involving building inspections and a local consistency focus, which basically across North Carolina, if this passes, it would require the North Carolina Building Code Council to approve and or deny any additional inspections that local government permitting offices, development, building safety departments, our inspections areas, anything other than what is allowed by the North Carolina Building Code Council would need to be approved through that entity. The bill from 2 weeks ago has received initial approval in the House and is continuing to move forward. The bill also has would move that any revisions that are made to the North Carolina Building Code for 1 and 2 family dwellings only happen on a 6-year cycle. Currently, it happens on a 3-year cycle, so there would be less of an opportunity to go in and look at the building code and make adjustments and amendments to that. This is moving forward. Almost finished. Senate Bill 186. Notice publication by counties and cities. This is a league advocacy goal, and if this moves forward, if Senate Bill 186 moves forward, it's going to allow counties and cities to be able to publish public notices of government required notices via their website and take advantage of electronic publication of these legally required notices. Currently, this is done across North Carolina in our print media, newspapers, and Ms. Burleson is very involved in that and has been for some time. And this would be about a projected $4 million cost savings per year across North Carolina local governments, I believe is what I read today.
I do have a question about this one, going back to the penalties for open meetings law. And the reason I brought that up, this one, public meeting. So, what happens if the press doesn't read stuff online? Are we covered? We're not going to get in trouble because someone didn't read the notices that go out online about a meeting that we may have with one of our committees.
I think as long as we comply with the open meetings law, that's, you know, if someone doesn't read the notice that's been published in accordance with the law, that's not a violation.
Having been with the press for a number of years, they're plugged in all the time.
Okay.
They see the stuff before we do, I think.
Okay.
They're online right now.
Last slide, and all of these have been before you before tonight, so I'll be quick with this. Senate Bill 3 you're very familiar with, and that's the bill that, if moves forward, would allow construction and funding of a Western crime laboratory facility in Edneyville for State Bureau of Investigation. Mr. Ost and I have spoke this week, and Bob, I'll turn it over to you for a second regarding resolution to support that.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this Senate Bill 3, I believe, was introduced by Senator Tom Apodaca, and Council's been looking for opportunities to cooperate with our legislators. And I think that this presents a good one, and I've drafted a real short resolution, and I can read the substantive provisions into the record. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Asheville that the Asheville City Council supports the establishment of a Western Crime Laboratory and urges the members of the North Carolina General Assembly to support the legislation directing the funding and the commitment, the funding and construction of said facility, and directing the city clerk to send a copy of the resolution to the members of the General Assembly whose district includes the City of Asheville.
All right, so are you finished, and we'll go ahead and take the resolution?
Yes, ma'am. I really don't have any. I appreciate you allowing me to wrap up in that manner, Mayor, and I apologize. I should have spoke about the Senate Bill 3 last, but operation of mopeds, House Bill 48 is moving forward. We'll continue to monitor the motor vehicle registration tax system repeal, House Bill 30, and that certainly concludes my presentation. I will say that the North Carolina League of Municipalities website, it has a very robust link to current bills that are in play right now. The staff will continue to monitor that. I looked today, and just in the area of general government today, 34 bills that are in play, and that's just that's a general section. That's not any specific section of government. So we'll continue to pay quite a bit of attention to this, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Ost and to the council for Senate Bill 3.
Councilman Smith had a question, then we'll go to the Vice Mayor.
Regarding the mopeds bill, is that for all motorized scooters? Is that only of a certain type or size? What does that apply to exactly?
I will check on that detailed question. It's my understanding that any moped out on a public road, operator of a moped on a public road would need to have a valid North Carolina driver's license, insurance, and registration. I don't know if there's a certain type that's excluded from that. I can check that. I know the intent behind it is twofold at least. One is that right now there is no type of registration, no type of connection back to the owner and the owner of the moped, the operator of the moped, as it relates to, there are a number of mopeds that are stolen across the state on a regular basis. The police departments across North Carolina have a tremendously difficult time tracking that, as well as any kind of regulatory oversight regarding the shape of the moped, if it's road ready, the size of the motor, and all of that, as well as the age of the person operating it. But I can check specifically to see if there's exclusions.
Yeah, I'll be interested going forward. It's a very important transportation piece.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to, if I can interject, because I was on the same subject. It would appear to me that that's aimed at DUI people, because that's a vehicle of choice for a lot of people after they get a DUI. So they can still get to work, and that's going to really put a hit on moped sales, because that's who's buying those things. It's really going to have an economic impact on people who've run afoul of the liquor laws.
Vice Mayor.
I was just going to add, it looks like, I just looked up, the Charlotte Airport bill looks like it was voted out of the Senate today, and I just mentioned that because I think that it will be telling to see where the Charlotte Airport bill goes in terms of the treatment of local governments by this legislature, regarding local assets. So I would double check that, but I just looked and it looked like the Senate voted it favorably out of the Senate, so it'll go to the House now. And I would mention that even though it's this is the Senate version of the Charlotte Airport bill. And its primary sponsor is Senator Rucho, but Senator Apodaca is the sponsor of that bill. So I think that's noteworthy considering his representation of the part of this area.
Okay. Bob, you asked for a resolution on the Edneyville piece.
If it's council's desire, I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to express support for a facility that that Senator Apodaca is obviously interested in, and that our district attorney is.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
And before we take the final vote, any members of the community wishing to address council on this motion to support the crime lab to be put in place in Edneyville? And council, just FYI, in the interim, it may not happen in Edneyville just because of location costs, but it may happen at the AB Tech Inca campus. They're talking about some, in the interim, just some negotiations until the land and everything's put in place in Edneyville. So we may be helping ourselves. It may be even closer to us. So just so you know. No one coming forward. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Yes.
One more question. Jeff, I apologize if I missed it. Did you give us a count of the number of municipalities that have passed the resolution regarding local utilities, or do you have an update?
No, sir. Maggie. No, I apologize for catching you off guard. The number of cities, the number of entities that have passed the resolution over the last 2 weeks.
I think we were in the 50s.
Mr. Schoaf would love to make a comment. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Phil reported at your last meeting in February that there were 50 cities willing to consider the resolution, and Chapel Hill was listed as one of those that was going to consider it the next day, one of the 50, and they did consider it and they did pass the resolution. So now there are, I believe, 48 that have actually passed the resolution. Winston-Salem will consider the resolution, or it's on their agenda for one of their March meetings. I think it's their second March meeting. So we're hovering around the 50 city mark. Hendersonville, of course, and Montreat both pulled it from their agenda. So,
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. So, council, any other resolutions that you want to have staff put together based upon the information that was provided? I do want to get more information, it sounds like, on the moped issue, just to drill down to see who that impacts, how that will go forward, because, council, we do want to recall that our police chief brought a concern about registrations of mopeds, and that when people get them stolen, if they haven't registered them, it's very hard to get them back to the original owners. And so we do have to deal with that as an issue of how do we register them so that if they're taken, they get back to the proper person. So we might want to see if we could see some tweaks. I would love to see a request for the Bizarro bill to go forward. That's been an issue, and I think it's coming up before public safety, but if we want some good legislation for something that we actually want, it would be great to get something that we could actually use immediately, to see a bill put in for that and have that move forward to help communities to deal with synthetic drugs.
I hope they're less, I hope they're more thoughtful about this synthetic drug bill than they apparently were about some of these other ones.
And I think that's why it would be good if we gave them some good language to help that process, and that way it will be something that we could use in a favorable manner. And so I'm hoping out of public safety we could come up with some good language to recommend that will be helpful for our community. Any other issues? It seems like, Vice Mayor, thank you for pulling it up. It seems like we need to be fast and furious on watching what's approved in Raleigh. So thank you for the update. Ooh. All right, council, next we're going to move into public hearings. We do have one public hearing, and it's to consider amending and adopting rules of procedure for the Civil Service Board to promote efficiency in the classified service. Ms. Dickens will give the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Come to you tonight to bring forward a proposal
and recommended changes to the Civil Service Board Rules of Procedure. In addition to the Civil Service Law, that board adopts standard rules of procedure which help govern them in their meetings and hearings. The Civil Service Law has gone under numerous changes over the years, with the most recent being in 2009, yet the Civil Service Board has not updated their rules of procedure to match that. So this is really just a housekeeping measure to make sure the language in the rules of procedure is consistent with the law. I've also got Patsy Bryson, the board's attorney, here this evening if there are specific questions about those changes. I do want to point out that in one of the changes that was detailed in Ms. Bryson's memo was not reflected in the proposed rules that we send you. So I wanted to just note that under work sessions, we are requesting a change there where it says that the board shall hold 2 work sessions each calendar year. The board discussed and said they wanted to have the option to hold work sessions, but didn't want that to be required. These were worked over a period of time between staff, the Civil Service Board, and their attorney over a period of meetings. The Civil Service Board adopted these at their January meeting, I believe. So, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, this is a public hearing. We'll open it up for public comment at this time. Seeing no one move forward, Council, any questions, comments, or a motion?
Mayor, I move approval. And as Council's liaison to the Public Service Board, I've been involved in the discussions. There have been multiple meetings where these various changes have evolved, and I support it.
Okay.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Any further questions or comments, Council? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. Council, we do have unfinished business tonight. We only have one item to consider, and that's the consideration of approval of the bylaws for the Asheville Downtown Improvement District Incorporated. Mr. Rick Jackson will make the presentation. Okay, Susan. Mr. Griffin, welcome.
Mayor Bellamy, thank you, Council. I'm Susan Griffin. I am elected chair of the bid board that you appointed in December, and I'm also a downtown resident and property owner. Downtown Asheville is dirty. That's not code for anything. There is just way too much litter, dog excrement, and all sorts of trash around. Downtown property owners want to work in partnership with the city to clean it up. Even better, we're bringing a $450,000 gift in the form of a special tax assessment on ourselves to get the job done. But we need an organizational framework to start from to be able to sign contracts with the city and with service providers, and to create a structure that's going to enable us to transact our business efficiently. That framework is defined in these bylaws, which have been unanimously endorsed by the bid board. And all of this falls within state statutes, which guarantee the city ultimate financial oversight on anything the bid does. The city has a long history of successful private-public partnerships downtown. That's why downtown looks the way it does today. We are looking forward to working to keep downtown the economic driver of this region, and this new partnership taking our neighborhood to an even brighter and cleaner future. Rick Jackson, who is chair of our bylaws committee, is going to walk you through the document.
Mayor, council members. The starting point of the draft you have in front of you is the bylaws that are currently in effect in Durham for their downtown improvement district. I bring this to your attention to underscore that this is not just a generic set of nonprofit corporation bylaws. This is a specific set of nonprofit corporation bylaws with the purpose of partnering with the city. To give you background, the interim board did an excellent job of revising the starting point to capture the uniqueness of Asheville. In particular, the purpose statement, the heart of the bylaws. About half of that is standard provisions from bid boards across the state. The other half tailored to fit Asheville. They also gave a lot of attention to the board composition. It took an effort to not be so specific in defining the board categories that had the net effect of being exclusive. Now, the matter at hand, the present draft is presented by the bid board. This draft is a further refinement of the bylaws to even better reflect the uniqueness of Asheville It's a further refinement of the bylaws to ensure that we have an effective board. It's a further refinement of the bylaws to ensure that we have an effective board partnership with the city. It better reflects the uniqueness of Asheville. In particular, there's a designation of one of the 15 board seats for a homeless service provider. We tried to make the General Advisory Council more inclusive. To give you background, we have the board, we have committees, and then we have advisory councils. The General Advisory Council is the main feedback loop. It's the main interface with the general community, whether a bid member or not, to tell us how we're doing. And there are 13 seats. There were an enumerated set. We took away some of the enumerated, but in the process, we further added and qualified. We wanted one to be a homeless service provider. But in providing for more non-enumerated seats, we additionally stripped the requirement previously that of those non-enumerated seats, you would have to be a bid member. So the attempt overall is to be more inclusive in soliciting feedback to this board. The refinement in front of you ensures effective board. In particular, we reduced the size from 15 to 19 to 13 to 15. We solicited boards across the state, Raleigh, Greensboro, Durham. They have upwards of 30 members. We said, is this working well for you? The resounding answer was no. If we could do it over, if we could somehow keep it in the teens, what we would have is a much more engaged board and one that's effectively not run by its executive director. That's why we're trying to keep the number to a manageable 15 engaged board members. We made the executive director a non-voting member of the executive committee to better ensure that there's no chance of the executive director running the show. And there's no delegation of major decisions to committees to ensure that all the important decisions are vested with the board. This further refinement also helps ensure that we have effective board partnership with the city. Any amendments to the articles or the bylaws are subject to city council approval. Whether it's a 13 or 15 member board, 5 of those directors are appointed by Asheville City Council. In addition to these levels of oversight, even separate from the bylaws, City Council has oversight already in the form of the contract yet to be negotiated between Council and the bid board, and Council's approval authority annually of the bid board's budget. To underscore most of the deliberations of both the interim board and this recent board with respect to these bylaws, it's fitting to give you an overall breakdown of these 15 board categories. So the ex officio voting members, but they're self-appointed. So we have Asheville City Council appointing its own member. We have Buncombe County Commission appointing its own member. We have the Asheville Downtown Association appointing its own member. In addition, the remaining 12 seats, we have 3 that are major real estate property owners. One of those is appointed by Asheville City Council. We have 3 directors, small, medium property owners. 1 is appointed by council. We have 2 directors that are residents living downtown. We have 1 who's an office tenant downtown, appointed by City Council. 2 directors or retail or restaurants downtown. And last but not least, the director is a homeless service provider appointed by Asheville City Council. And the level of flexibility in designating these is to underscore this current framework provides for other nonprofits, churches, additional homeless service providers, etc. And in particular, it would be in the form of most likely the seats of small, medium, real property owners downtown. You have the continuum, and there's a threshold designating major and small, medium. Point is, there can be a nominal or very low threshold to accommodate a church, a nonprofit organization, at the discretion of the board to bring in these valued perspectives. That completes my presentation. We respectfully submit these bylaws for your approval.
Okay. Councilman Hunt?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to offer a motion to approve the bylaws, and there are some specific amendments I'll discuss that I think the bid board is supportive of. But just to back up for the public to understand where we are in the process, the council several months ago approved this in concept, already acted several weeks ago to appoint the interim or the board of directors of the corporation that would be formed here. Tonight we're set to look at the bylaws and possibly approve those. 2 weeks from now we would approve the budget for the entity and look at setting a tax rate. And I would just highlight that that may be the most important juncture in this whole effort when the bid would actually become funded. We had a budget work session today, and I think there was a mix-up in communication. We very much hoped to have a little work session with the bid board on the way the budget was shaping up, and I'm not sure if anybody's transmitted it, but council's hope, based on our work session discussion, is that we could get a look at the draft budget by the 18th. Is that what we agreed to, council? Yes. By the 18th, which is Monday, that perhaps during the week, next week, we could have dialogue on that, and then in that way we're just more ahead of the curve. There will be a formal publication of it for the public before the council meeting 2 weeks from now.
I would say we are meeting on Thursday, and our next board meeting is on Thursday, and we will be discussing the budget at that time. The committee will have recommendations. The committee can't unilaterally decide on what they're going to send to council, so it does have to go before the whole board. So that should happen on Thursday, and then we can meet with staff again and make sure it's in a format that's amenable to council.
We understand that. Thank you, Susan. With that backdrop, on to the bylaws. The bylaws that were the draft bylaws published with the agenda included a draft that did not reflect some of the changes that you actually commented on, Rick. And I'd like to highlight those just so that we're very clear on what council will be voting on. And I've given a copy of an edited version of this, exactly like I'm going to read it out to Maggie, so that hopefully there will be no mistake in the translation here. But on page 5 of the bylaws, which is Article 4, 6E, in the first sentence, we would strike the words, "have the right to." So the sentence would read, "Notwithstanding the foregoing, the Asheville City Council shall appoint one director from Section 2A, etc." Further, it would strike the very last phrase in that paragraph, which is, "and at no point in time shall Asheville City Council appoint more than 1/3 of the Board of Directors." The point there is, as Mr. Jackson explained, Asheville City Council shall appoint 5 directors. 5 is exactly 1/3 of the max 15. So the ratio is fairly well taken care of without referencing a third or greater than or less than or anything like that.
Can you read that one more time? That wasn't clear. Just say that one more time. That part
the location of that?
No, I haven't.
Your summary of what it means.
Oh, what that means is that...
No, just the wording. You said it too fast. I'm sorry. I was trying to
go back.
Make my changes as you were stating.
In that paragraph E, near the top of page 5, we would strike the words "have the right to," which is starts in the first line. Strike "have the right to," and we would strike the very last 2 lines in that same paragraph, which starts with the words "and at no point." So we strike that entire phrase, "and at no point in time shall the Asheville City Council appoint more than one-third of the Board of Directors. Those are the changes that we've covered so far. The next change would be Article 6, Paragraph 2. The second sentence of that, there would be a new second sentence inserted that would read as follows. As a further limitation on the delegation of its powers, the board may not delegate its power to recommend or establish a tax rate within the district or approve or enter into contracts for the provision of services within the district or to determine which services to provide within the district. That sentence simply limits the kinds of authority that could be delegated to the executive committee or any other committee. There's an identical change that would occur on the next page, page 8, which is in the following paragraph, paragraph 3, which applies to the executive committee. There would be insertion of a fourth sentence that's identical to the one I just read in that second paragraph. And just to summarize what that does, the first insertion of that paragraph in paragraph 2 relates to delegation of authority to committees in general. The second insertion in paragraph 3 relates to delegation of authority to the executive committee. The final change is on the next to the last page of the document, Article 14, adds a final sentence. Any amendment to the Articles of Incorporation and the bylaws are subject to the approval of Asheville City Council. Again, I think Mr. Jackson referenced each of these points. He incorporated these provisions into his comments, and so I believe they're most likely acceptable to the...
If I could add, with respect to bylaws and articles amendments in particular, general board decisions are going to be quorum and then a majority of those present were quorum. So for example, 15, you have a quorum of 8, 5 would be a passing vote. With the exception of bylaws and amendments, that is majority of all directors. That is, if we have 15, that's 8 plus city council approval.
And I would add, I'm going to move approval. I would just add, I really appreciate the diligence. I mean, as you pointed out, the board members of the BID, the interim board, and now the appointed board have worked really hard on this. It's very much in the spirit of really finding the balance of what level of engagement the Asheville City Council has in this. And I would like to say to the rest of the council, I'm comfortable with the board makeup, the role that City Council will play in appointments and oversight, and I move we adopt the bylaws as drafted with those amendments I just outlined.
Second.
Councilman Bothwell.
I have two comments to make. One is I believe we passed as a council a rule that there would be 2 representatives of homeless advocacy. I think I read it in the minutes about that meeting, so I think we required that there be 2 on this board. And the larger question I have, remains for me, is I'm deeply troubled by the idea of turning over tax money to a body whose membership and voting power is determined by wealth. It is not democratic governance. It is not democratic distribution of tax monies. I think it's really, really wrong.
Councilman Hunt, you have a motion on the floor. Just a couple of things, just in alignment with existing boards and commissions. I might have missed it, but so term limits. I saw that they would serve 3-year terms, but currently, if we appoint a board, an individual can only serve 2 terms. I didn't see that here.
Well, I think I read that there's a 2-term maximum until a member has to sit out for at least a year. Did I get that right?
I believe that's correct.
Okay.
I believe that's what I read.
And then the current composition is we're going to have to stagger a third, 1 year rolling off, followed by a third the following year, followed by
Is
a third.
that, I'm sorry, can you just point me to where that is? I just want to check it off.
Understood.
And under...
That would be page 4.
Okay.
Subsection 6. Subsection A, term of office commencing on the date the bylaws are adopted. And
Right, got those, because it tells you when they start.
Right.
But I didn't see the 2 terms, where it says that there will be a limited to 2 terms.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite staying with you.
We have term limits on all our boards, whether it's the airport or MSD or public art.
Well, it seems that relative to the appointments that council would make, our policies of term limits could apply relative to appointments we make.
And
the non-council appointed directors here perhaps don't necessarily need to be influenced by our own internal rules of how we appoint. Is that?
This is not one of our boards. We're contracting with another entity.
Right.
We do not have board authority over them.
sorry, if I can offer the subsection D. Subsection 6, election term, office vacancies, and then subsection D within, with the exception of directors designated in section 3, basically the ex officio, City Council, Buncombe County, Downtown Association, directors may not serve more than 2 consecutive terms.
Thank you. And we also ask that our boards report to us on an annual basis. There's no mention of that, and I don't want that to be lost. And I understand it's a contracted organization, but it's not like it's a normal organization. We are approving its bylaws. And so I saw that you have the report. You're doing an annual audit, and you're doing an annual state of the corporation report. And so I just want to make sure we have noticed that a part of that comes to the city clerk as well, as do all our other boards and commissions.
Mayor, I believe our earlier resolution requires that we approve the budget annually. Under the statute, we have the authority to change the tax rate for the revenue provision under the taxing authority to the bid annually. We can, and I believe that through those mechanisms, especially the revenue setting authority with the tax rate, we have quite a bit of control here. I mean, we've got control built in here, and I think we can expect annual reports if we ask for them.
That would be correct.
New statute requires that.
Yeah.
Well, technically, we could just talk about the numbers and not the performance measures. And there could be another body sitting here that may look at the numbers and not the performance measures. And so I think it's good reporting for the community to be able to have that access through our city clerk's office. An annual report is something that we ask of every other board and commission that we appoint anybody to send an annual report to the city clerk's office.
That would be a necessary requirement as a part of how we would function. We would have an annual budget, and unilaterally we would not be able to act on that budget without council approval.
And Mayor, there'll be a contract, I believe, between the city of Asheville and the corporation to be formed that for the provision of services in exchange for this funding. And it would seem that contract might be the place to make sure we build in the transparency and metrics.
That would be the expectation, and that would be great to have in
Good idea for an expectation, but I think we need it in writing somewhere.
Definitely.
Because you're wonderful, doing a great job, and you may not be here in 5 years.
Understood.
We can amend it to, if you want to make it.
Mayor, I think the contract that Councilmember Hunt is speaking of would be not unlike the outside agency contracts that we have, which is where that requirement is.
Okay. So we need to make sure it's in there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we will see services in the budget defined?
Yes.
I would just to elaborate on that, you all were not at our budget work session today, and there was a request that not only we see the budget numbers by the 18th, but there be some pretty good detail in there about the exact services we might expect to include. Am I missing anything? But we had a discussion about that.
We did, and I do want to say, to be honest, since you were not there to hear it, and so it may not always get reported as accurately, I would like to say that I was disappointed that you all were not at the work session and didn't have a budget at the work session so we could talk about it. I won't be here the 26th, so I don't get to engage and ask questions and dialogue about the budget at all publicly. And so I express my disappointment and hope that we can get it on the 18th so at least I can convey my sentiments to my colleagues about what's being proposed and the services that will be articulated, what you're going to cover.
Mayor Bellamy, I apologize, and as chair, I take responsibility for that, but I have to say I was not aware that this was the deadline. We were working on the later deadline, on the 26th deadline. We will get the information to you by the 14th or 18th, which Mr. Hunt mentioned. 18th. And again, I apologize. There miscommunication. I did not understand that.
Okay. And so, Councilman Bothwell, what happened with the other service provider? Because it was pretty long conversation about the board makeup when
Understood.
we were here.
And to be clear, it wasn't a reflection on the significance of that position as much as it was striking a balance across the rest of the seats. Because we went from 19 to 15, and in doing so, there's a balance across the categories that we attempted to preserve. And the exercise as compared to what a Durham or a Raleigh does, where they have 30 plus enumerated in glorious detail, almost pigeonholes to the point where you're going to leave somebody out. So our exercise really was to distill it down and to draw attention to, other than the ex officio, that really is the only category defined to that level of specificity. And for good reason, that needs to be there. But by the same token, by only putting one expressly provided for, it wasn't intended to otherwise exclude, as I was explaining, the categorization process. We don't have a church enumerated. We don't have a nonprofit otherwise enumerated. The intent is that we need a church, we need other nonprofits, and that the current existing framework is flexible enough, whether as an office tenant downtown, whether as a real property owner, even if you don't pay taxes, the extent to which, if you take a small, medium real property owner, a nominal or an in-kind recognition would be sufficient for a financial contribution to have that important party have a seat at the board.
And I'll just make a point and help clarify if I'm wrong. So most of the people who are in items A through E have to have money to have access to be on the board.
Yes, and let me draw your attention specifically to the overarching requirement. So page 2, Article 4, where it's a discussion of the Board of Directors, the very end of the first paragraph deals with a 70% threshold. And okay, so we have 15 board members, and we have a 70% threshold that basically says those members would be paying in by way of real property taxes, whether as the owner or maybe pushing through to a tenant who pays some portion of those taxes. Either of those sufficient to satisfy this category. The remainder, we have a description of, and intended to be a financial contribution at the discretion of the board. And the discussions at the committee level, at the board level, are that is intended to be whatever it takes to have the necessary representation to get an important seat at the table. We understand it's a political decision, as we as the board elect our own members going forward, and just as it is the council appointing. And so to an extent, we appreciate the fact that you guys are appointing 5 and that you are appointing one of these tenants, or actually the only tenant, and one of the 3 small medium property owners, which our rationale was that gives you the discretion to fill it with a church, with a nonprofit, with another homeless service provider as you see fit.
Okay.
And further, we did not tread on this lightly. Understand we, and the board being reflective of the composition here, we went through the throes of, can we take away one more? Can we, how do we still it down to its essence? And the consideration of a 16th seat begets a 17th, because you really want an odd number. And so, again, it was not intended in any way to be a slight to that request, but really just a balancing act. And there is an underscore of intended flexibility to account for such a seat.
I understand that, and I understand the intent. In fact, one of my comments at the time that we passed that was that it seemed too big, the idea of the board at that time, because getting a quorum to show up when you have too big a board is always a problem. But the point I was making was, I believe in the enabling legislation that we passed here, that was a stipulation that there be 2. That's what I was aware of.
We made several requirements of them that night, and this has been fleshed out. We had a great deal of debate and conversation among the new board, and we reduced the size of it. We felt like we took it to a point that was effective. The homeless provider is a seated member who's participatory. They do have property in the district, and that was another thought. There was it'd be great to just open the board to anybody coming down the road, but the reality is you got to deal with 13 to 15 people, and them having vested interest in the district makes them a lot more viable, a lot more interested member in being there. We feel like that we have great representation of homeless needs on the board. I, serving as HCD chairperson, carry that knowledge to it, and Michael Wood from Western Carolina Rescue Missions is a very capable and very responsible provider. We have Stephanie Twitty, who's a nonprofit member. So we feel like that we're reaching a great deal of the community.
Okay. And just for Jan, to kind of address my point, it wasn't necessarily about adding another homeless service provider. I do want us to have a conversation as a council about our appointees. There are some renters who are very active in their buildings, who are low income, who are in the district, but they don't pay. They pay rent through, I think, subsidized rent, but they want a seat at the table, and I'm hoping that as we talk about our 5 seats, that we will take in mind that there are renters who want to be a part of this conversation, who are not business owners, who technically don't own their property, and that's...
And I think that we have the opportunity to do that. I also think we have the opportunity for subcommittees and committees that will be formed to represent a number of sectors of the community.
It's different when you're at the table where the decisions are being made as opposed to on a committee. And so I just want to make sure that when we are talking about our seats, that we talk about kind of casting a wide net to be open to people who want to be involved and who want to be engaged.
I'm more than happy to do that.
Councilman Smith?
Thanks for all the hard work everybody's been putting in on this. I know that I've been one of those folks who's just been, standing on the fence with this thing and trying to figure out which way to go. But I've amazing. I mean, the people involved in this are all of you are formidable people who I respect very much. And one nice thing about this whole process is I know that we all agree on the outcomes. We're all trying to get to that place where we can have that downtown that sustains itself and can continue to grow and be this globally renowned center of arts and culture and activity. But I have experienced discomfort through this process for a number of reasons, and I talked about some of those last time and voted yes last time to get us to this next step. But at that time and continuing to tonight, where I am is I'm really ready to see that budget. I really want to see those numbers. I really want to see what the priorities of this board are going to be to see if I'm going to be able to get to that place where I can vote for a tax increase to fund it, and to turn over the administration of that money to an appointed board. And so what I don't want to do tonight is to vote in favor of these bylaws and then 2 weeks from now not be able to support the budget, or I don't want to offer the sense tonight that this is a done deal. So I do have some concern about the homeless service providers. I do appreciate what y'all have done with the bylaws to allow us to address that with our appointments. And it is a change from what we did agree on, but you're bringing it as a change rather than just saying, hey, we're not going to do that. Yes. And that's especially important to me, especially in the news recently. There's been a very prominent clash between a city council and a bid in Greensboro, North Carolina. And we have seen this entity, the bid, be at open war with the city council. And that's concerning.
Can I offer by way
of... Well, I'm going to finish first. So this is where the board representation piece to me is problematic. Having that 1/3 instead of a 51% representation there, I'm just nervous as can be about it, especially given those headlines coming out of Greensboro. So I want everyone to know that I'm principally interested in seeing the budget and the priorities outlined there to see if this is going to be the best way to get us to the outcomes that we all agree on. So I won't be able to be supportive of the motion tonight.
Can I respectfully provide comments? You're absolutely right. The budget is where the rubber hits the road, and as it dovetails into, hopefully if we can get past that, the contract between the entities. The Greensboro instance in particular is one we're trying to avoid. Greensboro has a 30-plus member board, and that's exactly why we're trying to keep it down to 15 engaged members, as opposed to when you get that nebulous, the net effect is you have the ED, the executive director that runs the show. And that friction is basically that ED bumping up against the city there. And that's a problem. That's one of the measures that we're seeking to avoid.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would just, Councilman Smith, I appreciate where you're coming from and your commitment to understanding this thoroughly before you would approve it. I would suggest to council that 2 weeks from now is really sort of crunch time with this. And if we were to not approve bylaws tonight, that would effectively mean that there would be nowhere to go after tonight. And I do think that it's important that with diligence we review the budget and understand the work plan being presented before we really decide member by member here what to do about it. So I'm supportive of the bylaws. I think we've worked really hard on both sides to get the bylaws into the best shape we can get them, and that opens the opportunity to do more if council so chooses 2 weeks from now. So I urge approval. Can I
respectfully add one addition? Sorry.
Council discussion. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
So I hear what you're saying, that what you said is that if we don't go forward with the bylaws tonight, then we've really got nowhere to go. But I know that with lots of folks that we're partnering with across this community, we see a budget before we do a deal. And that's where I'm coming from. And I think we do that a lot. And I don't think that would be the end of the road. I think that if that budget comes in, we look at it and as a council say, oh my gosh, this is great. I can't wait to get behind this. We can go ahead and do bylaws then as well.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't interpret your point that way, but I see where you're coming from now. So deferring, your preference might be to defer this decision for 2 weeks instead of voting on it now.
If it's going to be presented tonight, I'll need to vote against it. But if it were to be deferred, I may vote for it.
And if it's defeated tonight, it could be reintroduced 2 weeks from now. Bob, is that true?
There's no restriction on it coming back to council. That's correct.
Would we be better, though, technically to hold off on the approval of the bylaws until we have the budget to adopt as well.
If council thinks that information is important to your consideration about whether to approve the bylaws, then I'd say that would be appropriate.
Because you got to remember, there was supposed to be, or we thought there would be consideration of the budget and services today, and so this would have been the second part of our time discussing this issue and having it look at the greater budget picture. And so I think it would be fair to council to wait 2 weeks.
I can see that. I would highlight that I think that in order for the bid directors to plan well and to be well organized, having assurances at different steps along the way of whether things are in order or not is important. And I'd like to suggest that we really have discussed the bylaws thing pretty darn thoroughly here, and maybe we've worked through it sufficiently so that we pretty much know what would be approved 2 weeks from now if we choose to defer till then.
Can we go ahead and approve the, I'm prepared to vote for the bylaws tonight, but if there's not a majority that are willing to, I don't want to torpedo the process, and a delay may be necessary. But could we go ahead and vote for the amendments you suggested? Or
And the amendments have to be part of the motion.
I know, that's why I wasn't sure how to.
Well, it's simply a draft yet to be considered by council at any in any case. And
maybe we would see a revised draft then,
incorporating
those changes.
The one that will be published online will be the cleaner version that was presented tonight, and so it'll be, everybody can follow the changes.
I assume if they're
okay. All right, so you're going to withdraw your motion, and we'll pick it up in 2 weeks.
Well, Mayor, I did not withdraw my motion.
I said, are you going to withdraw your?
Like the Vice Mayor, let me ask another point of order, Bob. If we approve these bylaws tonight, we could approve an amended version if need be 2 weeks from now, I suppose. If we don't approve these tonight, we could approve this version or something slightly different 2 weeks. I mean, approving or disapproving tonight either way doesn't preclude a second visit 2 weeks from now. Is that true?
I believe because one of the changes that you're proposing is that the city council gets to vote on any change to the bylaws, then it's kind of a circular thing here. I would, but in the absence of something like that, they are the board's bylaws to change or amend, and so if one of the amendments you're voting on is to give yourselves the power to approve, change the bylaws, then this may be your last shot.
I'll withdraw my motion, Mayor.
I will withdraw the second.
Okay.
And if there's an interest in continuing this matter to the next meeting, that motion would be in order.
Is there a motion to continue to next meeting, to the 26th?
Move to continue to the March 26th date.
Motion has been made and properly second. Any further questions or comments? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. And reminder, the meeting starts at 2:30.
Right, 2:30.
Council, we're going to proceed this evening. We have just a couple of more things this evening. Under new business, we have the ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances relating to massage and bodywork therapy regulations. Kelly Whitlock will make the presentation.
I'd rather.
Okay, perfect. Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Kelly Whitlock. I'm the Assistant City Attorney, and I'll be presenting the revisions to the massage therapy ordinance for your consideration tonight. Back in November, the owners of Massage Envy, a spa on Hendersonville Road, met with staff to discuss changes and revisions to the city's massage therapy ordinance in light of state law requirements. Our city's ordinance was enacted in 1995 and hasn't been revised since. We met with the Grant Deviney and Scott Orlinski of Massage Envy and spoke with them, and also after that meeting reviewed the state law requirements. The state law requirements for massage therapists are found in the Massage and Bodywork Therapy Practice Act. That was actually enacted in 1998 by the North Carolina General Assembly, and that requires that all massage and bodywork therapists are required to get a state license to practice. In order to obtain one of those licenses to practice under the state, applicants are required to be 18 years of age, they're required to be of good moral character, they're required to pass a competency exam, they're required to complete a training program, and also required to pass a background check. State licenses are required to be renewed every 2 years, and those licenses are subject to revocation and suspension by the North Carolina Board of Massage and Bodywork Therapy if there are any state violations of the law. This act specifically gives cities and counties the authority to regulate massage and bodywork therapists as long as those regulations are not inconsistent with state law. In addition to obtaining the state license to practice, massage therapists are also required to get a state privilege license. And under that law, cities are prohibited from levying an additional privilege license tax on those professionals that are already required to get a state privilege license. So after meeting with the owners of Massage Envy and reviewing the state law, staff did find that the city's ordinance did need revising to be consistent with state law. And also after reviewing with the Asheville Police Department, it was determined that some of the regulations that were in place in 1995 were deemed unnecessary for effective enforcement and needed to be deleted or revised. This slide here shows you what the current ordinance requirements are and what staff has proposed the requirements to be. You can see in this first requirement in the current ordinance, the city privilege license is required, and as I just stated, under state law, cities are not allowed to levy an additional privilege license onto these professionals who are already required to get a state privilege license. So staff is recommending that that requirement be deleted to be consistent with state law, and only the staff license to practice massage therapy would be required, again, consistent with state law. Second requirement that's currently found in our ordinance is that the names, addresses, phone numbers of employees must be filed with the chief of police. Those are one of those regulations that staff felt were unnecessary, and therefore staff is proposing that that requirement be deleted in the proposed ordinance. Same with the third requirement of records of persons receiving massages be maintained and subject to inspection by the chief of police. Really unnecessary, and so staff is recommending that that requirement be deleted as well. The current ordinance also prohibits minors under the age of 21 from being employed in massage therapy establishments. That's actually inconsistent with state law, as state law allows those 18 years or older to apply for a state license to practice. So staff is recommending that we revise that to be consistent with state law, and that would be 18 years, under the age of 18 years, would be prohibited from being employed in a massage therapy establishment. The next requirement that's found in the current city's massage therapy ordinance is that no minors under the age of 21 can receive a massage except if they are accompanied by a parent or a guardian, or if they have a physician's note. As we spoke to the owners of Massage Envy, and as we all know, we live in a university town. There are plenty of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds who live in town without their parents and would like massages, and so staff realizes that's quite restrictive, and so staff is recommending a revision to that prohibition to minors under the age of 18, again, unless they are accompanied by a parent or a guardian, or if they have a physician's note as well. And lastly, there is the current ordinance, a prohibition of hours of operation from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. Obviously, staff recognizes this is a restriction on the hours of operation and hard for massage therapists to do their business. So staff is recommending that the prohibition of hours of operation be between the hours of 11:30 p.m. and 5 a.m. Obviously, there's a lot of customers who would like to get a massage prior to the 8 a.m. current prohibition that we have in place now. The current ordinance prohibits the massaging of private parts for hire. That prohibition will remain in the proposed ordinance as well. In light of reviewing the the state law and the city's ordinance, staff also reviewed 8 other North Carolina cities and their massage therapy ordinances, and we found that our current ordinance was one of the most restrictive among them. On January 28th, staff presented these proposed revisions to the Public Safety Committee, and they recommended approval of the proposed ordinance revisions, and also recommended that staff implement an outreach program to local massage therapy and bodywork therapists to get their input on the proposed ordinance changes. So pursuant to that recommendation by the Public Safety Committee, staff did send a letter explaining the revisions to the ordinance to approximately 417 practitioners. That included an explanation of the revised ordinance, a link to an online survey, and a link to the proposed ordinance as well. And as you can see, here are the results of staff's survey. 49 of those persons responded to the online survey, and it appears that the responses suggest that the majority of the respondents favor all the suggested revisions to some degree. Most of the comments received were regarding the third category there, the revision of prohibition on hours of operation from 11:30 p.m. and 5 a.m. We received 4 responses suggesting that we should define the hours of operation from 7 a.m. to either 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. That's actually what our current ordinance states right now. 6 respondents commented that there should be no restrictions placed on the hours of operation. 1 respondent stated that the restriction furthered the perception that the massage was an illicit activity. However, we had 2 other comments where people stated that limiting the hours of operation was necessary to discourage illicit behavior. We also had 1 comment regarding the last category, the revision of the prohibition of massages to minors under the age of 18 unless they had a doctor's note or accompanied by a parent or guardian. That commenter felt that that restriction was unnecessary. We also received a comment from a massage therapist and who is also the vice chair on the North Carolina Massage and Bodywork Board, who felt that the definition of private parts should be further clarified. So in light of that suggestion, I did revise the private parts definition since I presented to the Public Safety Committee and included the word anus. That would still obviously permit massage of the gluteal area and the upper thigh area, but did make that revision since we had met. So that ends my presentation at that time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I believe that Dawa Hitch is here if you have any questions about the public outreach campaign that was done. Thank you.
All right, any comments from council? This is not a public hearing, but we will take public comment on a motion after it is made. So is there a motion to approve or disapprove?
I'd like to move to approve the revisions. I appreciate the work that y'all have done on this. We've got such a strong complementary medicine field here that I see this as partly just bringing some sanity to the ordinance, but it's also economic development.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly seconded. We'll open it up for public comment at this time.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to this council. Sitting here this evening, I'm seeing that you are definitely forward-thinking, and that your ability to forward the field of massage therapy is very important. As a person who's 20 years in massage therapy education administration, I would like to let you know that massage therapy is paramount to our health care, and insurance companies are now starting to pay for this modality as well. A lot of our leaders in Asheville, a lot of our surgeons, doctors, dentists, neurosurgeons are seeking massage therapy for their range of motion issues. So I would just like to let you know that revising this will increase the credibility of this field. It's been a long time coming. When I came to North Carolina in 1994, it was massage therapy was under the adult education law, the adult entertainment laws, and I'm glad to see that people's attitudes are changing. There were only 5 licensed states back in 1995 when this ordinance was written. There are 46 licensed states now for massage and bodywork therapy. So I thank you for your support.
Okay, thank you very much. I need to get your name, ma'am.
My name is Kimberly Williams, and I'm the director of the North Carolina School for Advanced Bodywork.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. You could just state your name for the record.
Brother Christopher Shermonte, City Council, Madam Mayor. As an ex-hairstylist in the 70s, one of the things I found when I got out of school is it's rough. You got to build up your clientele. I thank you for passing this. There's only one change I wish you would do, and that does deal with the hours. For an established masseuse or established hairstylist, you can make a living with the hours you got now. But if you are just starting out from school, you got to work whatever hours you can find. You may have to actually work at Walmart while you work at the profession that you desire. We are not, unfortunately, we've become a society that works 24 hours a day. You have some people that it might be easier for them to, or more convenient for them to come at 3 o'clock in the morning to get it done, or at 5 o'clock in the morning. It will help the students coming out to be able to work not only at regular, what we consider regular work, Walmart, Kmart, all the marts, but to give them an ability to by extending their hours to be able to support themselves. My first 6 months of doing hairstyling, I was only making $70 a week. And this is back in the 70s, as I was establishing a clientele. Now, to give you an understanding, this type of services, you lose roughly 15% of your clients within a month's time. So you're continually having to build a clientele. I would recommend to the City Council that they change that one from the hours to 24 hours a day. Look, if I'm going to an illicit massage parlor, it don't matter if I go at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning, because massages are not open for the public to watch. So, if it's going to be illicit, it don't matter what time you do it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Scott Orlinski, one of the owners of Massage Envy. Just want to say thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you, Kelly, for working hard with this. We're in full support of everything here, including the hour restriction. Really doesn't impact our business either way. The way the current law said that a customer couldn't walk in the door until after 8 a.m. It was actually against the law for someone to be in the lobby before 8 a.m. And so that's why we kind of asked for the change of the hours. But we're in support either way. As a business community, we've hired over 30 people in the community in less than a year, planning another 30, 40. So this is good for everybody in the industry. Just want to thank you for your support.
Okay. Any other comments?
Hi, my name's Paula Marzella. Thank you for letting me speak about this. I did get her survey when she sent it out, but unfortunately it was just like about a week ago that I got it. So I did pull up the regulations, and I would like to see a whole revision of Article 3. Some of these things, regardless, just even the definition of massage is old. I consider myself a bodywork therapist. I have been for 20 years. Most of my clients in this town are doctors at Mission Hospital, athletes from 16 years old, professional athletes up to 35, 40 years old. And when you have any restrictions at all, I feel like you put us in a category that we're not health practitioners. And as the woman said earlier, we are. We are health practitioners. You're not going to tell the hospital they can't function for certain hours. You're not going to tell a chiropractor. You're not going to tell an acupuncturist they can only practice from certain hours. So if you're going to revise this, I would consider taking the state regulations for what North Carolina Board of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork has and incorporate them so that we're more standard of being a health practitioner and not along the lines of where these were going in the early 90s of being massage parlors and not wanting to have 24-hour massage parlors and such like that. So I would hope you would consider actually revising this whole Article 3, and I would be willing to step up if somebody was looking for somebody to do that, because like I said again, everything from the definition of massage and the private parts definition and all of that is just so, it puts us in a category where I don't put myself. I'm a health practitioner, I'm a bodywork therapist, and there are many different types of massage therapy. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council this evening? All right, we'll close the public comment. Council, questions, comments, or we have a motion. So, Councilman Bothwell.
Although I'll support these changes because I think it's an improvement. I did question during the, when we heard about this at the Public Safety Committee, about the hours restriction, because I could imagine that, say at the Grove Park Inn, which has a spa on site, they could have people who are awake at 3 in the morning and really want a massage, and and if they had massage therapists who wanted to do massages at 3 in the morning, I don't understand what public safety is being served by that sort of thing. It doesn't, the piece of this still puzzles me. But I'm still willing to support it, and maybe we should look further, although I hate to keep revising and revising. And the other thing, which this is an aside, but I think it's it's baffling to me that the city's willing to do a public survey over questions about something that affects 439 practitioners in town on relatively minor changes, and we're not willing to take a survey of all downtown residents on the bid. I'm sorry to bring that up again, but I don't get it. We want to hear from the public on the things, on small things, but not on big things. It makes no sense to me at all.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Kelly.
Question for Kelly. The last speaker spoke about the language of the definition of the massage. Was there any consideration of revising that for our purposes?
I do. Actually, in the proposed ordinance, there are revisions to the definition section that are in line with state law. So I think that was included in your packet. So I didn't mention it in my presentation, but those changes have been made to be in line with state law.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We've heard from the public. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. I'm going to turn it over to the Vice Mayor to deal with resolution appointing members of the Asheville City School Board. I do want to just say that it was a pleasure to speak with so many interested individuals on today and over the phone. And so I think we have a hard decision because we have some great people who are interested in serving our community.
Comment on the motion? Yeah.
Through the school board. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. And just to reiterate, we did receive several applications from a really highly talented pool of applicants. It was a hard decision to make. As part of our process, we did write questions for the candidates, and those were sent to the candidates to answer and provide to us, and we reviewed those, and based on those written responses, we pared down the list, narrowing it down to several folks that we wanted to interview here in this chamber, which we did in an open meeting this morning at 10 o'clock. and we were able to interview 4 of the 6 candidates that were considered finalists. Matt Buys had already, he was already scheduled to travel with his children, one of his children's classes to Washington, D.C. today and could not be with us, but did contact us to be able to talk with us one-on-one. And also sitting board member Peggy Dahlman, also this date was not a date that she was able to come, but again, contacted each of us to give us an opportunity to speak with her one-on-one. So just as laying that as the foundation, we're ready now to select our Board of Education members, and I am open to suggestions in terms of if you want to just pick 3 and then see if we, okay. So this is the one that requires math and note taking. So if we, and I understand there may be some people here that would like to make some comments about the board selection. And I think what we'll do is go ahead and get it down to what council's looking at, see how that process goes, and then once we're at the part where we're entertaining a motion, we may hear from some folks who want to make a comment on this. All right, if we want to start on that end, you're to give three names, and we'll see if we can at least get a couple of these taken care of.
Dahlman, Buys, Ferguson.
Dahlman, Buys, Ferguson.
Dahlman, Lee, Buys.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah, we can't go too fast.
Okay,
Dahlman, okay.
You ready? Dahlman, Buys, and Syberg.
Dahlman, Buys, Ferguson.
Dahlman, Buys, Ferguson.
And I am also Dahlman, Buys, Ferguson.
Dahlman, unanimous, Buys, unanimous, and Ferguson, 5. Those are the 3. Mr. Lee and Mr. Seidberg each received 1.
I move approval of that slate.
Second. Okay, we have, wow, very good, very good. Okay, we have a first and a second. Now, if anyone would like to provide any public comment on this, yes? Yes, yeah. Please come forward and state your name.
Mayor, Councilman, and city staff. My name's Kern Parker. I'm a parent of 3 Asheville City Schools graduates. I'm an active volunteer in the Asheville City Schools at the middle school. My favorite place, which makes me sort of an unusual person, but I love it over there. And I'm very, very active at the Asheville City Schools Foundation. I've been a 6-year board member, and I'm also the volunteer bookkeeper for them, so I'm over there actively. First thing I would say is I've been so impressed by the process that you all went through here and by the quality of applicants that you were able to throw their hat into the rings. It was the summary article in the Citizen Times was really quite impressive, and I commend you for doing that. And I think you've, based on my knowledge of the candidates, reached very good decisions tonight. I do have something more formal to say, and with your indulgence, I'm going to read it. It's really an amalgamation of of the ideas of me and of Kate Pett, who's the executive director of the Asheville City Schools Foundation, with whom I work very, very closely. We are not speaking for the board of ACSF in this case. This is our personal opinions, but we thought we would offer them. And if she's watching on TV, I hope she'll give me the indulgence and or trust that I'll report our opinions accurately. So, if I may, I will read this very quickly. Tonight is an opportunity for a new era of collaboration between the City Council and the Board of Education. As you know, the success of the Asheville City Schools under leadership of the Board of Education is critical to our community. With decreasing school funding, aging buildings, and an achievement gap that is among the largest in the state, this community needs the Board of Education to innovate and stretch to meet the needs of our children. The council can support the success of the Board of Education in several ways. I'll enumerate the ones that we identified. Please ask the board to identify meaningful measurements of student learning and success with associated measurable benchmarks. Ask it to use those benchmarks to evaluate its own success and the success of the Asheville City Schools. Meet with the board regularly to assess its progress on those benchmarks and hold the board accountable for meeting its goals. Please ask the Board of Education to be your eyes and ears on the schools. Ask the board to engage the community in meaningful dialogue about how our schools can succeed and keep you apprised of developing issues and concerns and success stories. In these times of severe budgetary constraints, challenge the board to view the ACS budget creatively, looking for ways to repurpose funds, eliminating less productive expenditures to take advantage of new opportunities. And please support this board by asking for collaboration among the city departments and the schools to ensure that we are all working together and using resources wisely so that we can protect and nurture the more than 4,000 children in the Asheville City School System. The Asheville City Schools Board of Education is critical to the success of our schools and to the strength and vitality of our community. Like everything else about Asheville, our schools should be among the best in the nation. Great public schools will support our property values, increase the earning power of our citizens, increase tax revenue, and create jobs. But even as we acknowledge these very real and very positive economic benefits for our community, we must never lose sight of the fact that ensuring excellence and equity in our schools is the great responsibility that we have for our children, and above all, is a moral imperative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public that wants to?
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this motion?
I'd like to thank Mr. Parker for those comments from himself and Ms. Pett. Especially the way you've challenged City Council to regard our role. The folks at Asheville City School System, board members primarily, have made all the difference in soliciting applications. I know it started months ago. There were some great articles in the paper, outreach through social media and otherwise. We did have a great field of candidates, reiterating what the Vice Mayor said, in a difficult decision, but the quality really was impressive. And I'm thankful to all the candidates. There are many that did not make the cut that could have been great school board members. So I just want to say how much I appreciate that.
And I would echo that. The Asheville City Schools Foundation did a great job of really advertising these spots and getting us some really highly qualified applicants. And I know that tonight, I believe, is the night that Jean Bell and Al Whitesides are being honored. And they are institutions in and of themselves, and I feel like an era is passing with their leaving the board. But I feel that we are making some great selections tonight for those to serve in their place, and it's an exciting time. And we did have a longer discussion earlier and yesterday some about this interplay between the City Council and the school board and the accountability issue, and we grapple with how best to manage that relationship so that we can be assured that that results are being achieved, and I think that we hear that concern, and we're concerned as well, and want to make sure that that we have a way to be able to check in and make sure all of those goals are being carried out. Anyone else wishing to make a comment? All right.
All right.
We need to.
We need to go through with the motion.
We need to vote.
Yeah, need to vote.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, we're going to move forward with item C on the agenda under new business, which is to review of the recruitment plan for city attorney. And Kelly Dickens will outline our next steps in trying to replace our city attorney.
Mayor and council, again, I'm here tonight to go over any details or questions you may have and to seek guidance and direction from you on moving forward to recruit for a replacement city attorney given Mr. Ost's announcement of retirement. We've detailed out a timeline there for you in the staff report, proposing that we begin recruitment effectively this week. We're ready to roll forward with that and get the position posted on our website. We've identified several locations that we'll advertise and recruit from. As you can see, that timeline is pretty aggressive, but we would suggest that we move through that as rapidly as possible with an offer being extended hopefully in early to mid-June to the replacement. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about this timeline or details that you may want from there.
Council, any questions or comments? Okay, I have a question about length of service requirement. 6 to 9 years, is that average, normal? Are we asking a lot? I don't know, for a city attorney.
I can try and respond to that. I do see these positions advertised from time to time, and 6 to 9 years is not unusual for a city of this size.
I remember when I was doing my MPA, I heard a statistic that city managers lasted 3 to 5 years and city attorneys lasted 5 to 7. But I don't know if it's improved since then. That was quite a while ago.
But I'm beating
but they
the
do
odds.
keep track of that.
For sure.
And
I would say anything less than 5 years is probably not something you should consider.
okay, so we're in line. I didn't know if we were a bit high or not, just based upon the turnover for these types of positions. And so I just want to make sure we can get people who understand North Carolina law.
And I think that's our goal as well. I think that job classification spec was updated, I believe, in 2009 or the last time Fox Lawson did some analysis of that, and we typically benchmark those with other organizations, so we can re-review that just to make sure that that's standard before we move forward.
Would you do that? And also compensation, we heard today about compensation issues and compression and management issues. This is a position we hadn't had to advertise for years, and so it would be great if we have as much data about best practices, what's the benchmark, so we can be competitive.
Absolutely, and I think we pulled that information for council not long ago with regards to the benchmarks and the compensation for the city attorney position, so I can re-forward that to you.
Okay. Bob, does it look like we covered all our bases?
With regard to the level of experience, I would suggest, rather than saying 6 to 9, that you specify some minimum length of time. Otherwise, someone who has more than 9 years might think they're not eligible for this. So
That's a good point.
6 or more.
Six or more. 6 is great.
So can we adjust
Absolutely.
that?
We'll make that revision.
Perfect. Council, any other items that you would like to see addressed?
More of a question, Kelly. Are we, it looks like the advertising is sort of on websites. We're not engaging a headhunter at this time?
Yes, it was my understanding that council was fine with staff proceeding with handling this recruitment effort, so we would like to continue to do that along that route. We would use those websites that are identified there, the city's website, governmentjobs.com, Career Builder, Local Jobs, and then we would use some professional organizations that do have print media, such as the League of Municipalities has a newspaper that comes out, Southern Cities. We've asked Mr. Ost to actually try and recruit for us later this week at a municipal attorneys conference in Chapel Hill, so hopefully there'll be some announcement of the position there. So we'll try and get the word out as broadly as we can. If we need to do some direct recruitment, we're prepared to do that as well.
And Chris, all of council didn't make the decision on moving this forward this way. Did you want a headhunter?
No, that was just a question.
Any other comments? So I have a process question. Because all of council didn't make the decision on moving this forward, what are you narrowing it down to? What do we get to look at? What's our pool? Are we getting 3, 5, 10? What's the number that council kind of gets to shuffle through to say we want to move forward on?
I think it would be my recommendation that HR screen through those applications for minimum qualifications as we sort through the process. We have a tentative cutoff date there of April 15th. We'll sort through those as they come in. I think it would be wise to maybe work with the Personnel Committee of Council to kind of take that pool and maybe narrow it down from there, and we could present as many as that committee wanted to see, or we could narrow it down to a top 5 and present those to all of Council to do a process, whatever the preference is.
Okay. We do have a committee in place, myself, the Vice Mayor, and Councilman Smith, and so maybe we need to, Maggie, help us get a meeting real quick to talk about how many we want to see so you'll know what to bring, and we'll hear from council as well. All right. I don't think you need a motion since it's already in motion.
Okay.
Bob, do we need a motion? It sounds like it's going forward.
No, I think this is really just to, if council got any suggestions about the process or any,
the rest of us know.
any questions about the process or any suggestions for how it might be handled differently, I'm sure that, and I don't want to overspeak, but I don't think this is set in stone. There may be other places that we advertise.
Perfect. All right.
Mayor.
Yes.
And I just wanted to ask about the headhunter, just so that information's out in the public.
Right. And there'll be continuing communication with council with regards to the process and the dates and the scheduling. We would like to reach out to you in some sort of survey format to get some feel for what you feel are some key things that you see in a successful candidate, so you can look forward to some communication and developing that candidate profile. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Vice Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you for boards and commissions.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, we have a few boards and commissions to consider tonight. The Boards and Commissions Committee met earlier today, and we took a look at the applicants we received for the Airport Authority. And we, in this last go-around, we only received 3 new applications, and we were hoping for a larger pool than that. So we would recommend re-advertising that. Unless anyone has an objection. Okay. Same with the Citizens Police Advisory Committee. I think there we needed someone from South Asheville, and we weren't successful in reaching. There were some applicants who tried to creatively describe where they lived as Southwest or Southeast, but it didn't quite meet the mark there. So we recommend re-advertising that as well. Community, is that all right if we do that? Community Relations Council, the Boards and Commissions recommends the appointment of Tracy Miles, and I think we also had that recommendation from the committee itself. Unless anyone would like to interview someone else, that was our recommendation.
Move to approve Tracy Miles.
Second.
All right, any further comment? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then the Neighborhood Advisory Committee, we had a recommendation for an appointment here, but I know that there might have been some interest in re-advertising this one.
Yeah, there was just one applicant, and they'd like to leave it open, see if we can get some more, because it is also a South position as well, too.
So the right, it's a geographic specific spot, and Ms. Jordan did not want to be considered for appointment any longer. All right.
Well, at this time.
At this time. Okay. All right. So, is there any objection to re-advertising this one as well? Maybe we need to think about how we're advertising these. Okay. That's all.
All right, council, we're into informal discussion and public comment. And before we take in up public comment, I want to see if our liaison to the Civic U.S. Cellular Center want to give an update.
I do. Thank you for the opportunity. The community has had a wonderful experience for the past 4 or 5 days, actually. Having Southern Conference here has been a real treat. I think it was very good for the conference. The president of the conference said that he was very pleased with what had happened. That was as of Sunday evening, and I'm certain that it got better as the basketball concluded last night, and it was great. I don't know if anyone saw it on television. I only had one opportunity to see the television show last night of it, and they showed some great shots of the downtown and talked about what a great city it is. I mean, we got a lot of beautiful exposure there. The skylines were great. It went very well. The old building served us well. It looked great, a lot of energy in there, and the staff are to be commended. They worked just tirelessly, not to mention in the least our own Maggie. She was there running a lot of the show. And it was just great. We all had a good time. A lot of us at this table helped out there too, so I appreciate that.
I do want to commend the staff and also the Civic City Commission for the creativity and the number of people who were serving and helping out. I do want to, also the Civic City Commission, and I do want to talk about the Sports Commission. I think we need to bring them in and say thank you so very much for their leadership on this and other endeavors, but the addition of the downtown dribble was really exciting for a lot of people who had not been involved with the Southern Conference before, who then came back later with their families and purchased tickets. And so the kids really appreciated the opportunity to get a t-shirt and a basketball, see college students. The little boys really love App State cheerleaders. I want you to know they were.
Oh, yes. And big boys as well.
I wasn't going to say that, but they just kind of huddled around where the cheerleaders were. And so I couldn't believe it. I was like, well, get over here, mine included. But it was just a great opportunity.
They didn't like giving up those basketballs.
No, they did not.
Not good.
And then to have the colleges with the band and just the participation was great. And I hope you all will consider growing that next year.
That was a real treat for those of you who saw that coming down the street. It was an amazing thing, and those bands, the pep bands and the cheerleaders were just, that added so much to it. It was, and Mr. Imarino was just totally impressed with that. The newspaper too is to be commended. They put a lot of great shots on front pages. They all had to do with kids, and I thought that was the youth orientation was very much a desired thing, and it showed up. And I would be amiss to not recognize Janet Lampkin. Janet was responsible for a lot of those youth activities, the halftime shows, and she's one of ours. She worked really hard.
She did, and I also want to. Another kudos to the police department. They brought youth in from our public housing and did a fantastic job of integrating them and working with them. Parking, it went extremely well. The deck seems to operate extremely well, and people didn't have any complaints. And I think the directionals, the sponsors, oh my goodness, the advertising of the sponsors, I think it was just a win-win-win all around. The YMCA notifying their participants to participate in the downtown dribble. I just want to say thank you again to our community. It was phenomenal. The hotels had everything welcoming, and the packages were great for the teams as well as the alumnus and the supporters of the teams. And so just want to say thank you again. It was a great community event.
It really was. Mayor, if I might encourage people that are watching this, if you enjoyed it and participated in it, it might be a good thing to get on the website for the Southern Conference and send a few words of congratulations and thank you for their participation here. And also want to recognize that Ben Van Camp, who is our director of the Sports Commission, it could not have happened without Ben. And I mean, that goes back to 2 years now. We've got another year coming up.
UNC Asheville. Have to thank UNC Asheville for hosting the girls' portion, the women's portion of the basketball tournament, and Janet and her team did a phenomenal job with Chancellor Ponder. We really appreciate the collaboration. They laid out the red carpet for the teams.
Chancellor was down here.
And it was just phenomenal. I mean, it was just a win-win all the way around. And so we maybe need to bring them in and say thank you publicly while they're available.
And a big old congratulations to Davidson.
Oh, yeah.
And to Chattanooga women. It was great.
All right, those are the highlights from the weekend. Councilman Bothwell.
I'll echo all that. I thank you, staff. Thank you, Jan, for your leadership at the Civic Center. You've helped make that happen over these years.
A little bit.
Well, you kept pushing it. And on a very much narrower note, I wanted to greet Fred English. This is the second time he's been here since his heart attack, and he left early the other night. We were here, and I didn't get to say hi to you. I'm glad to see you back here, glad to see you up and around and doing pretty well. And we missed your comments.
All right, any other comments, updates from council? All right. Have a couple of people signed up to speak. Christopher Charlamonte. Just want to remind you, you have 3 minutes.
Brother Christopher Charlamonte, Madam Mayor, City Council of Asheville. I come to you today in the name of Yeshua Messiah, in whom I am a prophet for. In 1973, I joined the U.S. Navy. And at that time, I took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. For those of you who don't know, domestic means those enemies who live and even may be U.S. citizens. I now state for the record that I will never become an enemy to the Constitution of the United States or to the Bill of Rights. But rather, I am and will become a defender of that Constitution, especially against those that are what we used to call fifth colonists. Now, for those of you who don't know, it's a World War II term for when Germans would dress as American soldiers, wolves in sheep's clothing. Some of these wolves are dressed as congressmen, senators, mayors, city councilmen. They are in all forms of our government today. President Obama told us that our drones will not be used against U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. Though outside the United States, if you are suspected of being a terrorist outside the United States territory, you can be shot by a drone without due process. But you know, half the truth is still a lie. What our president failed to tell you is this. Without due process, if our government or some group within our government considers you, sir, a terrorist, they can strip you of the U.S. Constitution by stripping you of your U.S. citizenship without due process, which means that when they shoot you with that drone, they're not shooting a U.S. citizen on American soil. So behave, or you might find yourself with a target on you while on U.S. soil. Just as our city has told a half-truth, the 10-year plan to end homelessness. And by the way, we have just as many people as homeless now at A-Hope as we had 10 years ago, just different faces. What the city did not tell the people, in fact, our prior mayor, to Ms. Bellamy, had made a mistake and said we had a 1-year plan to end homelessness, and I got up and said, what, you're going to throw them all in jail? What they don't tell you is the hidden plan. Part of that was when they destroyed all the campsites at Bowcatcher Mountain.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I noticed.
All right.
In the name of Jesus, I end this.
Thank you.
And I'm sure glad you treat me
Thank you.
as
The next
are.
person we have signed up to speak before City Council is Timothy Sadler. Mr. English will get you after Mr. Sadler.
You'll read the rest, and I'll read the rest.
Good evening, City Council, Madam Mayor, members of the viewing public. I'm here to bring to Council's attention an experience I had at the first bid meeting. needless to say, it was the most humiliating experience of my life. I sat in that room for an hour and a half, waiting for an opportunity to give a comment. And at the end of the meeting, I stood up and had two things to say, and, well, I was told that I was not allowed to speak, which I thought was kind of crazy. But anyway, the 2 points that I had to make to that board were the two things that City Council gave as directives for the board, not suggestions or recommendations, but they were directives. I was here the evening when bid was approved, and it was two seats were to be for homeless service providers. The homeless are a stakeholder here downtown, whether you want to believe it or not. So I really, there was that, and it's great that you guys did what you did tonight, because the budget, they were actively talking about the ambassador program. They're actively planning to implement this ambassador program as part of the budget. So I think it was extremely wise to know what that budget is before you sign off on potentially causing this public feud between the board and City Council. So, you know, more than anything, I would like an explanation on on where it stands. Was it a directive for two seats for homeless providers, or just one? And, you know, it also is worth noting that in that room, they attempted to completely gloss over the fact that any homeless representation was to be in place. Jan was good enough to point out that, yes, we do need to have, it can't be just they tried to say it was a nonprofit representative. In particular, the Grove Park Foundation was going to be their representative. Jan was good enough to point out that no, it needs to be a homeless representative. So specifically, can we settle whether or not it was two seats that night?
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think it would be good to reflect on the minutes, and I don't have those before me. Ms. Burleson, can we get those and give them to council and get Mr. Sadler's information and get it to him and answer that question?
Thank you. I couldn't find it.
Mr. English. Mr. Sadler, if you would give Maggie your contact information, she will follow up with you. Mr. English, welcome back. Come on. Yes, sir.
My name is Fred English. Thanks, see, I guess I'll have to donate to your campaign there, Elizabeth. He's right. Right before Christmas, I had a heart attack, and I was in intensive care about 18 days over there, and I got pneumonia in intensive care, and nobody was happier to see Santa Claus than I was. I just have to say, I saw the thing in the paper about, wanting 5% of the tourist money. I think you deserve it. Don't let anybody plan on things. I go through that same thing every month. I'm on a fixed income. I don't know what my gas is going to be next month. I don't know what my groceries is going to be, because everything you see is here shipped in on a truck. Diesel fuel is $4.19 a gallon. When I drove truck for 18 years after I retired from the Army. I started off paying 35 cents a gallon for diesel fuel because it's a waste. And I hope you get it. Another thing, I called Chris Pelly 2 or 3 times. I'm tired of driving in mud over on Presley Road. 2.5 years since they started putting in the sewer and all that. And now they dug 14 holes in front of my house, and they've opened the same hole back up 3 times, and they're over there opening it up again today. Now, I don't know if they're making a mistake. I got 4 manhole covers in my yard, 4 meters in my front yard. The guy next door's meters in my yard. And I don't mind that, because they might get my bill mixed up and let him pay my water bill. But So this stuff's got to come to an end, this mud over there, and that's about all I got to say, and thanks again, C.
Okay. All right, Mr. Jackson, if we can just get some correspondence to MSD, just a concerned citizen, let us know about Presley Road, I'd appreciate it. Any other members of the community wishing to address council tonight on any issue? All right, council, we do have a closed session.
Mayor, I move that Asheville City Council go into closed session for the following reason: to consult with an attorney employed by the city about matters with respect to which the attorney-client privilege between the city and its attorney must be preserved, including a lawsuit involving the following parties: City of Asheville, Mayor Terry M. Bellamy, Cecil Bothwell, Jan B. Davis, Mark W. Hunt, Christopher A. Pelly, Gordon D. Smith, W&K Hotels, LLC, DBA 4 Points by Sheraton, Hospitality Lodging Investors, 2, LP, DBA Hotel Indigo, Nesbitt Asheville Venture, LLC, DBA The Renaissance Hotel. Statutory authorization is contained in GS 143-318.11A3. Second, to prevent disclosure of information that is privileged and confidential pursuant to the laws of North Carolina are not considered a public record within the meaning of Chapter 132 of the General Statutes. The law that makes the information privileged and confidential is NCGS 143-318.10E. The statutory authorization is contained in NCGS 143-318.11A1.
Second.
Motion made and properly second. Any further questions or comments? No comment, Councilman Bothwell?
What,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries. We will not make an announcement after the closed session. We will adjourn.